Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is Erza's older brother in fairy tale. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Deedeesee and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Sharp blue eyes assessed his surroundings, his muscles taut and absolutely still so as not to give away his position. The experienced gaze of his partner Sharingan analyzing every and all details that could help or hinder their mission, only further comforting him in its reliance. The feared duo of Uzumaki and Uchiha was once again dispatched to deal with another high-rank missing nin. Having fully checked out the clearing in one of the forests on the edge of Fire Country's borders, Naruto decided to break the self-imposed radio silence. I can't see anything from here. I'm going in, give me 5 minutes, then cut around behind their camp while I check to see if they're actually here or not. Naruto, or Kuma as he is known with his mask on, age 22 Jounin of Konohagakure no Sado, spoke to his best friend and partner Sasuke codenamed Taka. Understood, I'll radio if I see them come by me. Taka replied before taking off. Even though it had been 5 years since the end of the Fourth Shinobi World War, defectors and other missing nin seemed to be in abundance for the hidden villages to clean up after. 5 years since the both of them decided to team up and join Anbu, one to prove his loyalty to Konoha or really Konoha's next Hokage. The other to gain and perfect the necessary skills he needed to complement his raw power. Still he knew this was going to be one of his last missions, one of the last times he'd be able to don the prestigious Anbu mask and uniform. One of the last times he and his friend Sasuke would be out in the field completing missions instead of stuck behind a desk doing paperwork. Naruto sighed even as he inwardly cringed at remembering his upcoming promotion. Oh how he dreaded the day. Not because he didn't want a promotion, he liked having extra money after all. No, he just didn't want this particular promotion. Sasuke because of his general skill level and mission completion rate would be promoted as one of 3 Anbu commanders. Naruto on the other hand would be eased into the position of Hokage by shadowing Tsunade for a few months and finally taking office officially. When he was younger he dreamt of the day he would enter the spotlight and be Hokage. Now it just meant he'd finally have to stop hiding from the very village he swore to protect. They didn't hate him anymore, not since he defeated Pain, but he still hadn't received the acknowledgement he craved from his village. He used to think that being Hokage meant people would finally see him as Naruto the person, not Naruto the demon fox child. The opposite had happened. Where before he used to receive glares and scorn, now he received odd looks and worship. They knew him as war hero Naruto, better than demon brat, but still not the person he wanted to be seen as. Now everyone expected him to solve all their problems all the time. Make new alliances, and keep away evil, all while signing autographs and making sure everyone was always happy. He was essentially a poster boy and recruiter for the shinobi career, basically he viewed himself as a fake. Still, he would need to reminisce on his life at a later date. For now, there was a mission to complete, so he decided to enter the camp warily. Careful not to make much noise and to stick to the shadows even under this moonless night, Naruto headed straight to the enemy nin supplies. He would need to destroy them in order to more easily overpower them later on. Unfortunately he never reached his destination as a powerful hand suddenly shot out from underground and tightened around his neck, suffocating him. Managing to get a grip on the wrist and twist the arm, he freed himself and backflipped away from his assailant. Taking a measured look at him now, he instantly recognized him as one of the last remnants of Root left over after Danzo's fall. If it isn't the Jinchuriki of the Leaf. I will kill you here and then head after your partner in order to complete our vengeance for Danzo-sama. The nameless Root operative stated in a half-crazed tone of voice. Naruto instantly knew that this man was dangerous if he so easily recognized him, as well as knew Sasuke was here too. That led him to only one conclusion. There remained a leak in Konoha's security that allowed classified information to leave the village. He would have to do everything possible to capture this man alive. Knowing who the leak was would solve many problems and stop future attacks on Konoha. Before he could speak up and try to apprehend this shinobi, Sasuke's voice lashed out in the darkness, cutting through his plans. Chidori Iso and a blade made of pure lightning pierced the Root shinobi through the chest, effectively ending another monologue before it started. So my intel was right and the traitorous Uchiha was here as well. He smirked with a drop of blood rolling from his mouth before continuing. Too bad you're both going to die today. He then purposefully and carefully started heading straight for Naruto, disentangling himself painfully from the spear of lightning. He instantly whipped around and threw a handful of kunai with explosive tags on them in Sasuke's direction. As soon as they left however, he dropped to his knees in pain and coughed up even more blood. Sasuke, having escaped the explosions, decided to try and get some information from him before attacking once more. A shinobi of his caliber that had evaded Hunter Nin for years was not to be taken lightly after all. Who else is here? And where did you buy the classified information about our identities? If you truly loved Konoha as you claim, you will cooperate before we are forced to eliminate you. Sasuke growled out from where he was sitting on the tree branch out of any Kune's range. I alone carry the will and dreams of Danzo-sama. When we meet again, he will reward me for being his most faithful follower. Cackling madly after this proclamation, he proceeded to turn his back on Sasuke and point a finger in Naruto's direction. If you had been the proper weapon as you were destined, Konoha would be great once more. If nothing else, I will take you down with me. He shouted out and purposefully started walking in Naruto's direction. As he approached Naruto, who was watching him warily, he started to remove his armored vest and started laughing as seals started appearing on his body, seemingly leaking ink. Sasuke immediately recognized a seal array as he had encountered it once before and seen its devastating power. Kuma. What are you standing there for? Move out of the way. That's the reverse tetragram sealing Kenjutsu. If he captures you in its range, it'll take you down with him. Having yelled out his warning, Sasuke immediately leapt away and further into the trees to distance himself from the suicidal shinobi. Naruto, on the other hand, appeared frozen and hadn't moved an inch. Move, will you? Hurry, you have only a few seconds before it's too late. Sasuke cried out one more time, hoping to convey how serious this was. It's no use, Uchiha bastard. You see, for all your renowned power, the Jinchuriki is as arrogant as any other. He allowed me to get too close to him and I put a cursed seal on him that immobilizes him until I say so. Ha 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 ha. Come Uchiha, try and get to him before he dies. Join him in the afterlife where you shall both face the wrath of Danzo-sama. The rude shinobi informed the duo with no small amount of pleasure in his voice. Damn it, Naruto, just break out of it. I used Susanoo, you should be able to use Kyuubi's chakra. Damn it, what are you waiting for? Something must be wrong. He must somehow be blocked from using its power. There's only one thing to do. I have to get you myself and try and use Kamui to move us out of there, even if I'm not sure I can copy a Manjikyu Sharingan's ability like Madara could, thought Sasuke as he rushed forward to try and reach Naruto before the crazed missing nin. Naruto could only watch wide-eyed as Sasuke decided to head immediately towards him as he finally broke free from the seal. As soon as Sasuke settled next to him with a man from route no more than 5 feet away, Naruto reached into his pouch for the special kunai he'd been working on since joining Anbu. He knew he only had one shot at this, as even now he sensed the reverse tetragram seal activating and heading their way. He immediately threw the tri-pronged kunai as hard as he could and went through the 5 hand seals required to activate it. Dragon, horse, snake, ram, boar. Hiration. All he recalled was grabbing onto Sasuke as he saw a pitch-black orb of energy erupt from the chest of the root operative. Sasuke, as soon as he touched down next to Naruto, immediately grabbed onto his shoulder and barely noticed him throwing a kunai into the trees. As he felt Naruto's hand grasp his shoulder in return and he picked up on the orb of death heading his way, he immediately cried out Kamui. Unbeknownst to him, he activated his undeveloped Jikiken Jutsu at exactly the same time as Naruto's equally untrained Jikiken Jutsu was triggered. All he recalled was the unrestrained power of the cursed seal, exploding from the missing nin's chest and engulfing them, both before he felt weightless and euphoric. This feeling lasting about half a second before both Anbu operatives, friends and untrained Jikiken Jutsu users were assaulted with immeasurable pain that felt as if their very bodies were being ripped apart. Pain worse than any he'd ever felt, his very being cried out in agony as it seemed to be dissolved piece by piece while hurtling through space. As the feeling of hurling through the air carried on, Naruto felt his grip on Sasuke's shoulder slacken until he finally was forced to let go. Feeling the distance between the two inexplicably increase, Naruto panicked and called out to the only person that might be able to help. Almost immediately the voice of his lifelong tenant spoke up from what seemed like a disturbed sleep. What is it, brat? I thought you were on a mission right now. Why are you hurling through the air? And why in the 9 levels of hell are you falling apart, brat? I'll do what I can, but how the hell could you let yourself be hit by anything that could cause this much destruction? Kurama rumbled a bit irritatedly. Even though his jailer seemed to be in a perilous situation, Kurama seemed to be in a deceptively calm mood. Kid took a lot of damage on this one. This is gonna hurt him a bit, but if he didn't want pain, he should have avoided the stupid attack. Nothing much I can do except flood him with my chakra and hope I can heal and rebuild him faster than he's being torn apart. Ah. Lots of pain. Help. Long story short. Used Hiration and Sasuke used Kamui to escape from a double suicide jutsu on our last mission. But since Hirashing is supposed to be instantaneous, I don't know what's going on right now and I need you. Naruto let out before he viciously crashed onto a pile of rocks face down. Trying to regain his composure, Naruto slowly and painfully lifted himself from the boulder he was lying on and peered confusedly at what was in front of him. As he stared in wonder at waves of water crashing upon the shore of what he deemed to be an island, he couldn't help but drop his jaw in shock. Last he checked, he was in a forest, nowhere near the sea. And he was supposed to flash over to the kunai he threw, not to sea country or water country. The shock, the pain, the new environment, it all finally got to him. Suddenly he no longer knew if what he was hearing was the roar of the ocean or the onset of a severe concussion. Darkness engulfed him and his body once again crashed down to the floor and he knew no more. TNT. Brat. Brat. Kit. Wake up. Wake up, brat. Wake the hell up, you lazy, puny, pathetic excuse for my jailer. Wake up this instant or I swear I'll stop you from ever having children before you're 60. Blue eyes snapped open and Naruto shot up from his position on the floor of what looked to be a jail cell, greatly surprising the lean old man with long white hair and eyebrows by his side. Taking a second to quickly assess his surroundings, Naruto realized this old man must have been taking care of his wounds as he had bandages wrapped around his arms, head and chest. Kurama, what happened? Where am I? Naruto asked since he clearly remembered being in a forest, then by the sea, and now he was apparently captured. How the hell should I know, brat? I've been trying to wake you for the last few hours. Even though I don't know where you are, you should know how much damage you took. You're not going to like this. Kurama tried explaining to Naruto. What do you mean? And where's Sasuke? Did I get captured or something? It doesn't make sense though. Why would they treat my wounds if I did? Naruto was looking around frantically for his friend and growing more confused by the second. Don't know where the Uchiha is, but he certainly wasn't around when you woke me the first time. I can tell you that much. I didn't sense his unique chakra anywhere. As for the bad news. Well, remember how you always were made fun of for being a short brat with a loud mouth? Receiving a mental nod from Naruto, Kurama decided to continue. It seems that you took so much damage from whatever hit you that I had to basically rebuild your entire body. For some inexplicable reason, instead of healing you in your current age, you now look like the annoying loudmouth that you used to be when we first met. What? You mean I'm a kid again? Naruto froze after his outburst. No, my voice is childish again. And why the hell am I so short? I wasn't this short before. Damn you, Kurama, you did this on purpose. I know you did, you annoying furball. Now my clothes don't even fit anymore. After ranting and raving for a few minutes, Naruto finally calmed down and looked over at the old man that was staring at him in slight confusion and as if he were looking at a crazy person. Rubbing the back of his head sheepishly, Naruto decided to ask him some questions to figure out where he was. Aha, sorry about that, Jai-san. But I don't know how I got here and I tend to talk to myself when caught off guard. Do you know where we are? I think I hit my head pretty hard and I don't remember ever getting here. Ah, I see, you were very injured last night when the guards brought you in. You were covered in blood and they must have thrown any clothes they could find on you since they're too big for you. Well, to answer your questions, we're on a small island off the shores of the Akane Resort. You must have been captured the same as the rest of us by the dark magic cult attempting to build the R system to revive the dark wizard Zeref. My name is Rob and I decided to look after you last night since all the kids seem to have been taken away to a different cell last night. The now named old man Rob told him as Naruto listened intently, hoping to figure out where he was. Nothing that he heard made sense though. Where the hell was the Akane Resort? And yeah, jutsu were pretty cool and powerful, but the only cult he knew of was the now extinct cult of Jashin, and they didn't think it was magic. Zeref was a name he'd never heard of before, but he definitely didn't like the sound of a system that could bring back the dead. It sounded worse and even more evil than that damned Edo Tensei jutsu Orochimaru used to love so much. I can see you don't understand everything that's happened to you, child. Unfortunately, what I'm trying to say is that you are now a slave just like everyone else here, forced to help in building the Tower of Heaven. Rest for now though, the guards want this place built as fast as possible, even if you have injuries they'll be sure to try and make you work. Rob spoke to him in a kindly manner whilst trying all the while to get him to lie down. Seeing his determined look, Naruto sighed and decided to do as he said. He lay down on the ground again and decided to talk to Kurama once more. Hey Kurama, did you get all that? What do we do now? Sleep, idiot. You still don't know where you are, but I'm sure you can escape from this island given enough time. Our system sounds dangerous, so if need be we can always entertain ourselves by going full Biju mode and blowing the island sky high. Everything else can wait till you're back on the mainland and can get your hands on a map. I guess you're right. I am still pretty tired. I'll just take a quick nap and figure things out tomorrow. Wake me up if something happens. A snort from Kurama caused him to raise an eyebrow in question. I told you I basically rebuilt your pathetic and scrawny hide. I'm even more tired than you from using so much chakra. I'm not your alarm clock. Try not to get killed in the next few hours. Actually, knowing you, just pipe down and keep quiet while I sleep to regain some strength before you get yourself caught up in something we'll both regret. Only managing to chuckle in agreement, Naruto decided Kurama deserved his rest and he'd let him sleep for a while. He then put his head down, smiled gratefully at Rob, and closed his eyes to enter into the world of dreams he deserved after such a long day. TNT. Great plumes of smoke curled up and around the Tower of Heaven. Heavy explosions went off in countless locations as the slaves of the tower revolted and tried to overthrow the Black Cult. This was the world Naruto awoke to as he rose groggily from his sleep. Looking around and finding no sign of Rob but the door wide open, he decided to go and find out what was going on. As he climbed the stairs of where he was held, he ascended to what he believed was the ground floor and could barely believe his eyes. All around him there was a massive fight going on. It seemed Rob was right and this was a tower where slaves worked to build something. But a revolt had broken out. Uniformed guards, it seemed, were losing ground to all the slaves that were fighting against them. Explosions were going off from what he could only assume were more guards, even if they were floating and shooting powerful flames out from their mouths. As he looked around trying to find the one person that he knew, he finally spotted him in front of a cowering girl in the line of fire from well over 20 of those guards. Naruto's eyes widened in amazement as he saw old man Rob seemingly deflect the powerful blasts hurled his way from those floating guards. He then proceeded to return fire with what he could only guess was a wordless and signless Kaiten jutsu. Naruto quickly darted forward and grabbed Rob before he fell over whilst creating a clone to grab the red-headed girl and evade the rocks falling from the ceiling after Rob's attacks. "What are you doing here, kid? I may not look it, but I am still a mage. Those soldiers are headed our way. If I must, I will give my life to protect these children you see around you. Now run while I hold them off. Run and take little Erza with you. Do not worry about me. I will protect everyone up until I cannot stand anymore," Rob exclaimed as he once again stood in front of Erza and Naruto, spreading his arms out wide, hoping to deflect the blasts from the remaining guards. What he heard and saw next surprised him more than anything he'd seen in his last few years as a slave. Oten. Doryu Heki, a massive wall of earth adorned with toads' faces, erupted from the ground in front of Rob and took the full force of the weapon's blasts from the guards. After, the young blonde boy he treated last night rushed forward, ran up the wall and landed on top to cry out Doten. Dasakiryu, after which the very wall broke down and transformed into a dragon made of stone before launching itself in pursuit of the now fleeing guards. "So you're a mage too, young man." Panting as he had not used magic in a very long time, Rob decided to check over Erza, who was staring wide-eyed at Naruto. No, I'm a Jounin of Konoha. Name's Naruto. I can see that a revolt is taking place right now, so that's good. Now to make a door big enough for us all to walk out of here in peace," Naruto murmured as a slightly manic grin crossed his face. It was time to blow things up, which is what he excelled at, and used that jutsu Tamari had taught him not too long ago. Quickly going through the hand signs, he then clapped his hands together and yelled out Futen. Kakimi, and from his hands erupted a net made of wind which proceeded to carve a massive door straight out of the wall of the tower. "What strange magic you use, Naruto. But right now, we must get these kids out of here and onto the boats outside so we can escape," Rob said to him as he was done checking to see if Erza was hurt. "No, wait, Jai-chan. Gel. We have to save Gel. We can't leave without him." Erza quickly sprang up and took off to look for Gel after remembering who it was that inspired her to lead this rebellion. "Naruto, please go after her. I am glad she won't see this, but I'm dying. I used up a lot of magic even though I haven't used any in many years. For a wizard, magic would usually tire them out, but for me it is my very life force and I don't have much time. But even knowing you for only a short while, I can see you're a good and strong person. So please, promise me to look after her. Look after Erza, she of all people has suffered very much here. Please protect her," Rob begged Naruto as he propped himself into a sitting position while trying to emphasize how serious the situation was. "I'll get her out of here, Jai-san. That's a promise. And I never go back on my promises. Rest now, Jai-san. I'll create some clones to help let out the rest of the people and help Erza out. I'll only leave your side if someone needs me." Tajuwu Cage Bunshin, over 100 clones popped into existence and instantly took off to herd the rest of the prisoners on the island to the boats outside, while one more took off to locate Erza. Watching the kind old man in front of him die from what he assumed was chakra exhaustion, since that's what he seemed to explain it as, Naruto couldn't help but feel sadness at his departure. This man had helped him last night and then decided to risk and give up his life to protect the young girl from all those guards coming after her. He threw his life in the line of fire, not knowing that Naruto would help him along the way. What he had said, that he would protect those around him until he couldn't stand anymore, was awfully similar to his own Nindo to protect those precious to him. After receiving memories from his clones that the majority of people were now on ships and others were stalking them, he decided to look for Erza himself. Not wanting to just leave him here, Naruto pulled out one of the sealing scrolls used to transport bodies to confirm a kill from his overly large vest. He then sealed Rob into the scroll in order to buy himself enough time to find him a decent final resting ground. The loud explosion caught his attention, and as he looked up he saw Erza falling to the ground, having crashed straight through the wall. He quickly took off and used Shunshin to catch her and cradle her full before she hit the ground. He looked up to see who or what had done this to her only to watch as a blue-haired boy pointed his hand at his clone standing behind him and a bright purple circle erupt underneath his feet. Before Naruto could figure out what was going on, his clone went up in smoke, having somehow been dispelled despite not being touched. Must be some sort of seal. Not one I've ever seen before though. Who is this guy and witty attacker Erza and my clone? Is this the jello guy Erza was looking for? Naruto wondered as he reviewed the memories of his clone tracking and listening into Erza talking to this guy. What he hadn't noticed however was that Erza was looking on in shock and horror at the place where his clone had gone up in smoke. She had already seen Jello do this upstairs to one of the guards that had tortured them. But this new blonde guy, Naruto, he hadn't done anything evil to either of them. So why did Jello kill him? Why? Suddenly Naruto felt a massive amount of pressure bear down on him. Looking around he noticed it came from Erza, who had somehow gotten a glowing circle of her own to erupt under her feet. Yelling, she released all her pent-up power and managed to take control of all the weapons and tools around the tower, making them float in the air. What kind of power is this? Naruto asked himself in shock. Is this some sort of bloodline? How is she controlling all of this and why did it manifest now of all times? Doesn't matter. I promise to protect her. If she can't control her power for now since she's apparently attacking her friend Jell, I'll knock her out and help her control it later. Sorry Erza-chan, but this is for your own good. Having decided on his plan of action, Naruto quickly stepped up behind Erza, went through a few more hand signs and whispered Ninpo. Tanuki Neri before laying a hand on her shoulder and catching her as she fell. As he was setting her down gently, Jell decided to call out to him with a sadistic smile on his face. Take her from this island. Take her far away, I don't need her. As a reward for getting rid of the nuisances that control this place, I grant her her fleeting freedom, but in exchange for this freedom, you won't speak of this island or its purpose to anyone from the government again. Otherwise, I'll just destroy this place and everything on it and restart somewhere else. Shut up. I'm going to take her with me when I leave this place. And if I want to tell someone about this place I will. There is nothing you can do to stop me. As a matter of fact, I'll destroy this place for you. I would never allow such an abomination to exist anyways. A quick clone was created to pick Erza up and take her to a safe location. Following that, Naruto started a long series of hand seals building his chakra for a massive jutsu. Careful brat. You don't want to blow up all the people you just saved, do you? If you unleash that jutsu you could easily overpower it and endanger everyone else here, even the girl you promised to save. Just destroy all the tools, equipment and machines necessary to help this place run. Kurama interjected before Naruto could blow everything sky high. Sighing as he knew his tenant was right, Naruto decided to aim his jutsu at all the mentioned targets. Pain. Hibashiri, a ring of fire erupted around the tower and around a surprised Jell. Following up on Kurama's plan to destroy everything usable for building, Naruto unleashed one more jutsu to enhance the flames. Oten. Doryu Taiga kneeling, he poured all his chakra into the earth and watched as it transformed into a river of mud that ran all the way down to the holding cells he'd awoken in before it caught on fire too, acting as if it were a river of tar. If anyone tried to rebuild the tower now, they would have to start from the ground up and waste precious resources as well as time to even pick up where they left off. You think this will stop me? I'll bring back Zeref. Nothing can stop me. Even if it takes me years to start again. Zeref will be reborn by my hand. Jell crowed out as he started to laugh madly. Naruto could do nothing but walk away. He knew Jell wouldn't die from this fire. But there was something off about that boy. Something he'd learned from his long years of shinobi life though, you have to pick your battles. He might help Jell someday, especially if he was important to Erza and probably rob Jai-san. For now though, he'd have to get everyone out of the tower. That was a priority, and dealing with the crazed child would come later. Where to now, Naruto? I'm still a bit tired, so don't expect to be able to just mooch off my greatness and chakra to help you find a way back home. Nice of you to check in, furball. I was thinking that I'd get Erza-chan here to a safe place. Maybe a relative or a nearby village or something. From there I'd find out where I am and then make a plan to head home. Good plan, brat. You might want to check on Chibi Kushina before we leave here though. I've never sensed anything like that strange power she used earlier. You never know if it's all good for her. Doubt it's cursed power like that Yugo character, but it wouldn't hurt to check. Chibi Kushina? What's that mean? For someone hailed as a prodigy in the shinobi field, you sure are dumb, aren't you, brat? That little Erza girl you've decided to protect looks a lot like your mother did at her age. I should know, I was sealed into her at around that age if you recall. Doubt she's in Uzumaki though, she doesn't feel like you were my previous containers. Still, the resemblance is uncanny. You know, now that you mention it. She does look a lot like Kasan. That's kinda funny, she could be like the long-lost little sister I never had. Me taking after Tucson and her after Kasan. You're right though, I'll check on her as soon as we get on a boat and leave this place. I want to get her as far away from here as possible. Hey boss. I just put Mini Kasan into that boat on the far end of the docks. Everything's all set to go, so just shove off when you're ready. See ya. His clone having reported and decided to disperse after pointing out which boat to go to. Haha, see brat. Even your copies are smarter than you. Seems like your clone technique doesn't make flimsy copies of you, it makes more intelligent versions instead. Kurama pointed out before he started laughing even harder. A tick mark developed over his eye and Naruto decided to ignore his annoying tenant in favor of checking up and looking Erza over for injuries. An hour into their voyage out at sea, Naruto confirmed that the only thing wrong with her that a few nights of rest and some food wouldn't fix was that right eye she was missing. He had an idea on how to fix it since he knew no Iryu ninjutsu could regrow an eye save for maybe Tsunade Bachin's secret jutsu, but he figured it'd probably be painful for him and downright impossible without Kurama's help. So having decided on his course of action, he settled back and got comfortable as he prepared to talk Kurama into helping him. Kurama, you said that you basically reconstructed my body before we got to that island, right? No. What do you mean no? Those were your exact words. I mean no, I won't help you carry out this stupid plan you're going to try and talk me into. You don't seem to realize how tired I am of your stupid plans. I get nothing out of this, you know. You've spent 5 years working out your father's pride and joy. We may get along better than we used to now, but no one likes to be caged. We're partners, Naruto. You may not do much for me anymore, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and let you mutilate yourself. You're absolutely right. Course I am, I'm never wrong, Brad. Glad to see you finally agree with me. Now what are you going to do to help Chibi Kushina? I'll make you a deal, Kurama. It took me 5 years just to begin to experiment with my father's jutsu. Which is one of the highest forms of sealing out there. From here on out, apart from getting better at using Hurration, the only thing I'll work on is getting you free without it killing me. How's that sound? The catch of course is that you have to help me with my situation here and now. TCH. I'd be a fool to pass up on a chance of freedom, even if we can only make it temporary. Fine, I'll help you with this. Make a clone though to do the operation. Your clones tend to have better control than you do, and you'll need to be paralyzed since this will be painful, and I can't have you thrashing around while working. Just answer one question for me before we do this. Sure, what question is it? This isn't one of your so-called precious people. Nor is she a client or some other duty-bound person you've sworn to help. So why go through all the trouble to help this girl? Kurama couldn't help but ask this question, as even though he knew Naruto fairly well and knew about his promises, even he couldn't understand why he'd go this far for this girl. His promise to protect her only took him as far as getting this girl to a safe place without any harm falling on her. Naruto didn't have to take his promise this far. It was even farther than his promise to bring back Sasuke, since then he'd even said he would go as far as breaking every bone in his body and dragging him back to Konoha if need be. Well. It's kind of embarrassing. But since you're helping me. I don't really know why, Kurama. I just feel this need to help her and protect her any way I can. If she needs an eye and I can provide it, I'll help her. I almost feel as if she's my real long-lost sister. I look at her and see my Kasan and can't help but want to make her happy. I see. It's stupid in my opinion, Brad, but I do see. Keep in mind, Naruto. Just because I had the power to help this time doesn't mean I will forever. As it stands, I may not be able to help you again with any chakra for at least a few months, maybe a year. I did it the first time so you wouldn't die. This time it's because you find it important to you to help this girl. There won't be a next time, understand? Now then, let's get started. Alright. Thanks, Kurama, you won't regret this. It's a good thing I learned the chakra no Mesu and Shosen Jutsu from Tsunade Bachin and Sakura-chan in case Sasuke ever died. Naruto immediately made 2 shadow clones. One to hold him down and use a paralysis jutsu on him while the other performed the surgery. With any luck, by the time they got to shore, Naruto would have successfully transplanted an eye into Erza, while Kurama would have regrown that same eye in his head so he wouldn't walk around like Kakashi-sensei all the time. TNT. Erza woke up to find herself lying on her back on what appeared to be a boat and staring up at a clear star-filled sky. Naruto. She screamed out before sitting up abruptly and looking around wildly. After taking a look around and seeing she was on a beach somewhere, she started to tear up in her lone uncovered eye. She'd failed to protect him. Just like Rob Jai-chan had protected her. Now they must be far from the Tower of Heaven and she'd never see either one of them or Gel again. Yes. Naruto's head popped up from the side of the boat. Why are you crying, Erza-chan? You should be happy that you're nowhere near that tower anymore. Besides, I caught some fire if Naruto was cut off and found himself on his back with a crying little girl hugging him for dear life. Naruto couldn't help but be overly confused at what was happening. Sitting up he decided to hug Erza back and rub her back while trying to calm her down and figure out why she was crying. After Naruto explained about Rob's last wishes and Erza about why she was so happy to see him, they settled down a bit now that their ordeal was over. After they ate their meal of grilled fish, Naruto finally asked Erza where she wanted to go. Once he found out that she had no more real family, that familiar urge to want to do anything to help her once again rose up in his chest. Perhaps it was the promise he made to Rob, but he couldn't help but compare this to the feeling of wanting to help someone he looked at as more than a friend. Like Sasuke before her, Naruto realized he and Erza shared many things in common. So this feeling of wanting to help her as an older brother was both different but similar to wanting to help Sasuke. Okay Erza-chan. So where to now? I managed to sneak into that resort and get us some supplies. You mean you managed to waltz in and steal lots of supplies from that one store after they kicked you out for looking like a hoodlum? It amazes me sometimes the lengths you'll go to for some payback on idiots. Still, walking in and pretending to be the owner after using henge was too funny. Stealing their profits for the day was only icing on the cake. Ignoring Kurama's sarcastic yet accurate observations, Naruto continued without pause. So we should be good on both money and all the basics we need to get to whatever town you need. We need to decide tonight so we can leave in the morning. I have a feeling we shouldn't stick too close to a cane resort for too long. He muttered as an embarrassed blush crept onto his face. Well, there was this one place that Rob Jai-chan always talked about when we worked on the tower. And now that we're free I want to head there as soon as possible to follow my dreams. Erza piped up, her eye shining with excitement. The other eye was still wrapped in bandages after Naruto had finished the transplant and he planned on telling her about what had happened tomorrow after a good night's rest. Sure thing Erza-chan. Where do you want to go? The one place where if you join they look at you and treat you like family. I want to join so I can be part of Rob Jai-chan's family. I want to head to a town called Magnolia Town and join the guild named Fairy Tail. Chapter 2. 1 week. That's how long it had taken to get from the Akane beach to Magnolia Town. Even though immensely enjoying her time spent with the cheerful blonde Erza knew they could have gotten here a lot sooner. For being such a powerful mage he seemingly had absolutely no sense of direction. Often getting lost and stepping off the train at the wrong stop and just wandering around the city. On more than one occasion she'd had to drag him back to the train station or to a carriage to get them back on track. Even so she was very thankful to him even after all the delays. Naruto, having noticed neither of them had any spare clothes, decided to take them both clothes shopping for a few sets. After getting a room at a local inn and bathing they finally set off to Fairy Tail so they could ask to have Erza join. After asking for directions from a few of the locals, the duo set off for Fairy Tail, all the while Naruto complaining. Aw man. I can't believe they didn't have any orange. It's the best color ever. If Sasuke team sees me like this he'll never let me live it down. My clothes are so itchy. Wearing a pained expression on his face, Naruto turned when he heard the sound of giggling coming from his right. And what's so funny Erza-chan? If you knew Sasuke like I did you'd know he would never let me live this down. He'd be all like HN this and HN that. To top it all off he'd end with a HN dope HN so annoying, what a bastard. Doesn't help that the only comfortable clothes were a blue-collared shirt and white shorts. He finished with a grimace, imagining the ridicule he'd face for dressing like a young Sasuke. Nothing. Just that orange would look really bad on you Nai-san. Gasping Erza quickly covered her mouth at the slip of her tongue. She stared wide-eyed at Naruto, fearing he wouldn't like what she'd said and leave her just like her parents had. Instead he acted as if nothing had happened and pouted. That's cruel Erza-chan. Orange is the best color ever and I would look amazing in it. He came to a halt and pulled her into a one-armed hug. And I'd be honored if that's how you chose to look at me Erza-chan. I'll just make sure to never let you down. Beaming and wearing a smile a mile wide Erza ran to catch up to Naruto as he had moved on and was headed straight for the guild in the distance. He said he wouldn't let me down. He let me call him Nai-san. Erza was happy she'd almost arrived at Fairy Tail, but the highlight of her day was Naruto accepting what Erza said. Fairy Tail. From the sounds of it a party must be going on in there. They must have heard how awesome I am and started early. Come on Erza-chan, it's rude to keep guests waiting. Naruto boasted as he puffed up his chest and slowly opened the doors of the guild. All done to relax Erza a bit as she seemed to grow increasingly nervous with each step closer to reaching the guild. All sound died out as the people inside saw Naruto and Erza. Naruto watched each person closely as they both entered the guild. He saw a table full of children around Erza's age, around his age too come to think of it. The two of them headed for the bar on the side of the hall and asked for Master Makarov. They waited patiently as a little old man headed their way after hearing their request. Hey there kids. What can I do for you today? Want to put a request in for the guild? Naruto almost laughed at how comical the master looked. He was shorter than even Erza who was 11 and was wearing some ridiculous clothes. Schooling his face into a serious expression, Naruto leaned forward and spoke in a hushed tone of voice so he wouldn't be overheard. I'm here on the last wishes of a man named Rob. Unfortunately he has just passed away recently, so could we discuss this further in private? Come with me. Holding a finger to his lips, Makarov's face adopted a pensive look before walking upstairs. The blonde teen and red-haired little girl looked around once more before following him to the second floor. Once they reached the top, Makarov opened a door to the left and went inside motioning for Naruto and Erza to enter. Now then, could you start from the beginning? I can tell this isn't a simple matter of informing an old friend of the time and place for a funeral. Makarov said behind his desk as he pointed at two chairs for Naruto and Erza to take a seat. Of course, well, I only just met him over a week ago. I'll explain everything he said to me, but I'm afraid Erza will have to explain everything else. Naruto and Erza then proceeded to explain everything and anything that had happened in the Tower of Heaven. Naruto learned of how long she had met and admired Rob. How she had made friends and been given her last name by Gel. Every time she mentioned Rob, Erza grew a little saddened but forged through it all because of the silent support Naruto was giving her. Eventually they got to the part of Erza losing an eye and starting the rebellion, which is where Naruto came in. Naruto, feeling wary as his own part of the story started as an Anbu mission, merely mentioned that he had ended up on the island but didn't know how as he couldn't remember. Makarov took it all in stride, having noticed the bandages wrapped around Naruto's head and Erza's eye. Finally, having recapped on everything up till Rob's plea to take care of Erza, he refrained from mentioning his encounter with Gel. That sounds like Rob. To take a chance on the next generation and use magic knowing the consequences. Makarov stroked his chin in thought and seemed to be staring off into the past. Stupid fool, can't say I wouldn't do the same myself. He will be missed. Is there any chance you gave him a proper burial? Naruto nodded but decided to get answers now that he finally had someone to question. Actually, before I get to that, I have a few questions if you could answer them for me. I ended up on that island by some sort of freak accident. I've noticed that this country, these towns and a lot of terms are unfamiliar to me. So I believe I must be very far from home. Could you by chance explain a lot of what I've been hearing? Like what's a mage and a guild, and if you've heard of the elemental nations and specifically Konohagakure no Sado. The following hour of interrogating the master, confused, intrigued, and saddened Naruto. It seemed that although the master didn't know everything there was, he'd certainly never heard of shinobi, Konoha, Bijuu, or his biggest hope, the infamous Fourth Shinobi War. Even so, he promised to look further into it and get back to him. Naruto had just nodded and decided not to go into detail about his old world. Naruto had instead learned of the existence and theories of magic, the magic council that governed mages, and the role wizard guilds played. That was informative. It does explain a lot though. At least we know why it's taking so long for me to recover. Yeah, and it certainly narrows down my options to find a way home, Naruto replied to Kurama before remembering the exact conversation where most of his questions had popped up. Flashback. Naruto had just finished creating 2 clones and checking to make sure Erza was comfortable and still out cold. He lay down. Just as he was getting ready to have his clone rip his eye out, Kurama spoke up. Listen Brad, I'll help either way, but there is something you should know before we begin. I would have mentioned it sooner, but I doubt it would have made any difference. That and I don't think it's that big a deal, but you probably do. Well, what is it? Unlike you, I won't live forever, so can you get on with the show? Funny you should mention that. Naruto could almost see the grin crossing Kurama's face. There's something wrong with my chakra. I know the seal is working fine since nothing's changed in here, but something is messing with my control. What's that mean for me and my eye? If it means that you can't grow it back, I'm still going to give it to her. I can always wait till I get back to Konoha or something to find a replacement. Touching, but no. I can still regrow it, but something's making my chakra denser and much heavier than it needs to be. It's like back before we changed the seal and I tried forcing my will on you when you reached 4 tails of power in the Bijuu cloak. If you remember, my chakra was so dense that it literally burned your skin right off you while growing it back at the same time. Yes, so? I already know it's going to hurt. Spit it out already, fuzzface. I'm not the most patient person around. Clearly. You're an idiot too, since obviously you never listened to your precious Bachan's explanations of why it was so bad to do that. Because it was so dense, my chakra hurting and healing you actually shortened your life. Did the same for me though, it's why she died much younger than most of your clan. So let me get this straight. For whatever reason, since you obviously don't know and neither do I. For some reason, your chakra is much heavier and me using it at all, and especially to regrow an organ, it's actually shortening my lifespan, as well as healing me short term. And wait, you don't find this a big deal? What if I die, furball? DCH, you won't die. At least not for the next 10 years, I know that much. Then again, you might be dumb enough to be killed by choking on ramen or something. But yeah, in case you haven't noticed, I stopped healing your injuries from last night too. I started to feel your life growing shorter, so I assumed you wanted to live as long as possible and stopped my chakra. And it's not a big deal because like I said, you do this anyways, consequences be damned. Gritting his teeth in annoyance, Naruto made a note to harass or find some way to prank Kurama in the near future. Fine. You're right though, I am still going to do this. How much of my life am I cutting off out of curiosity? And how long till you think you can have your chakra under control again, since it's obviously not the seal doing this like last time? Don't know. Like I said before, my chakra is not recovering as fast as normal. A few months to a year before I can do what we're used to. Probably a few more months or years after that to train or work some way to fix it without killing you. Depends on how soon we get back to Konoha and if this will fix itself or we do it. Right, that's important. Still, how much longer do I have to live? I never realized Great Aunt Mito died that much younger than any of the clan. And give exact numbers since you're a moron of a shinobi. I would say at least 50 or 60 years. Growing your eye back is more delicate and uses more chakra than when we grew your skin back. Chances are it took off close to 20 or so years of your life. Like I said before, this is the last time I do this kind of thing for you. Looking over at the peaceful expression on Erza's face, Naruto felt no regrets about helping her. I understand, and thanks for this. It's well worth a little pain to help Erza. Having said his piece, Naruto signaled for his clone to get started on their eye transplant. Flashback end. Naruto took a minute to lean back into his chair and think. He wanted to discuss everything he'd learned and just remembered with Kurama. So you thinking what I'm thinking? We should say screw Konoha and just live the rest of our lives here. This place sounds like it's full of pushovers. If you trained yourself up to cage level again we could boss everyone around. Just imagine, it's like being Hokage of the country, not just the village. Sweat dropping at Kurama's ramblings, Naruto just shook his head and got back on track. No. This magic thing must be what's messing up your chakra. Since apparently Eternano is everywhere and mixes with the spirit of a person and spiritual flow of nature. It must be mixing with your chakra because of the Shiki Fujin seal tying both our souls together. For whatever reason the seal must draw magic out of whack and disrupt your chakra. Wonder why it didn't do the same to me. Ahahaha. Obviously my greatness far outstrips yours. You heard the old man. Only 10% of humans can use magic. You aren't in that 10%. And yet there are a great many magical creatures running around this place. I am one of those now too. It's obvious now that the sheer magnificence of my presence will always eclipse that of my clumsy container. Ha 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 ha. Baka fox. Naruto mumbled under his breath. Stupid furball has all the luck. First he has more chakra than my entire village combined and now he can use magic too. Did you say something, Naruto? I understand it must be hard not knowing how you ended up here, but what are you going to do now? Makarov asked him, concern showing on his face. Sidestepping the question, Naruto decided to pull out a scroll from his pocket. Handing it over to Makarov he started to explain what he had done. As I told you before, I'm a shinobi. We shinobi can't use magic, but we do have other ways of doing similar things. This scroll here can store things. I didn't feel it was right to just leave Rob Jai-san's body back there, so I brought it with us. Just wipe a bit of blood on the top there and the body should be unsealed. Thank you my boy. I'll be sure to give Rob a proper burial. Don't think I didn't notice how you avoided my question. What are you going to do now? Makarov fixed him with a stern glare as he looked between Naruto and Erza. Erza wants to join Fairy Tail. Rob Jai-san asked me to protect her and look after her. Seems to me that the best way to do that is to let her live her dream and join. As for me, well I have a home I need to find my way back to. Having said this he looked over at Erza to gauge her reaction. It wasn't pretty. Nice, and you're leaving? But you just got here. Don't go. Erza cried as a tear slowly made its way down her cheek. Frowning at the display in front of him, Naruto heard an echo of his own voice from earlier. I'll just make sure to never let you down. I'd be honored if that's how you chose to look at me, Erza-chan. Making up his mind he knew what he was going to do. Don't worry Erza-chan. I won't let you down, remember? I promise to look after you and I never break my promises. Just give me a month, Erza-chan. I need a month to get my affairs in order. There's a friend I have to see if I can find. And hopefully maps to know how far away I am from getting home. I'll be back in a month though, that's a promise. He then pulled out a tissue and wiped away the tear from her eye. Don't look so sad, Erza-chan. I just need to head to Capital Crocus to that big library over there. I'm sure they'll have what I'm looking for. And I'll be back right after to let you know what I'm going to do next. Glad that at least Erza had stopped crying. Naruto didn't want to tell her he had another reason to leave besides looking for Sasuke and a way home. Surely that won't take you a month though, Naruto. We will of course let Erza join the guild if that's what she wants. But why don't you join too? We could always use good people like you two at this guild. Makarov interrupted, not knowing of Naruto's plans. Grimacing at a possible wrench in his actions so early, Naruto heard Erza giggle before she spoke up. Actually, Master, Naruto Nai-san is really bad with directions. It took us a week to get here from Akane Beach. Even though it should take less than a day. Come on, Erza-chan. You're supposed to respect your elders, don't embarrass me like that. Scratching the back of his head and looking away in embarrassment, Naruto still chuckled at Erza's comments. If anyone were to ask, he'd blame it on magic messing with his sense of direction though. While at the library, check the current dates too and major historical events. Why's that? You used a Jikuken Jutsu at the same time as the Uchiha. That's a space-time impossibility. We might be in a different dimension similar to your Toad summons. Or we might have been flung to a different time from our own. We don't know if it was just our location that changed or something else. Yeah, you're right. Hopefully it's a different dimension. At least I could work on that problem myself. Time though, I don't think even seals can transport people through time. But dimensions have a precedence at least, I mean, that's where we get summons from. Getting up to leave, Naruto walked to the door and opened it before turning back, engulfing Erza in a hug. I'll be back in a month, Erza-chan. In the meantime, practice your magic so you can control it better. And don't get too sad, you'll always have a piece of me with you. See you in a month, Amudo. He said before winking at her and leaving the room. Drama queen. When Chibi Kushina finds out what you did and meant, you better not come crying to me to fix it. Ignoring his ever-talkative tenant, Naruto walked out of the guild and headed for Magnolia Station. It was as he was waiting for the next train to take him back close to Akane Resort that Makarov found him. Now that Erza isn't around, I wanted to ask you something since you seem to want to keep this private. He said as he sat next to him on the bench. What's that then, master? Naruto asked. I may not be the greatest at casting them, but I wouldn't be a good master if I couldn't detect a simple illusion. Granted, this one was a bit tough since it seems restricted to your head, but I want to know why. Why are you hiding anything from Erza? She seems like a good girl and she cares the world for you. I'm sure whatever it is you're hiding isn't so shameful that she'd turn away from you. Makarov spoke quietly yet with a serious tone of voice. Knowing that he couldn't get out of this now and a bit impressed he'd been found out, Naruto dropped his hinge. It was barely noticeable, but the bandages wrapped around his forehead extended a bit to wrap around his right eye. That and the whisker birthmarks he had disappeared from his cheeks, although he didn't know that. It's nothing I'm ashamed of, master. I just didn't want her getting sad or feeling as if she didn't deserve what I gave her. I noticed she was hurt and missing an eye. I promised to look after her. So I gave her mine. My right eye for hers. It's something she shouldn't have to feel guilty about if she saw it. Glancing at the clock, hoping for an escape, Naruto only sighed as his train wouldn't leave for another half hour. That explains it a bit. I was going to take her to a friend of mine to have an artificial eye put in. Your solution works better for her though, as you were right, you'll always be with her. If you want, I can have my friend Perusica look at your eye for you. Makarov turned to look at him and offered. Never before had he encountered such a selfless individual. One willing to sacrifice an eye for the sake of a promise. Offering his help was the least he could do for this young man. Smiling wryly, Naruto shook his head and decided to explain his dismissal of help. No thank you, it's not necessary. The reason I didn't tell Erza about it is because I can actually grow my own eye back. It's painful, but it was worth it to help her. You see, I didn't know if she'd ever be able to see again without an eye, and well, I had a spare. Eyes widening in surprise at this formidable ability, Makarov had one more question to ask. I see. A talent like that must surely have its downsides. I find it hard to believe regrowing one's organs or vital parts could have no repercussions. Grimacing at being caught out so quickly, Naruto decided to trust Makarov with a slight version of the truth. It does. However, if I tell you, you can't tell Erza about this. Understood? No. She deserves to know about how much you've helped her. I can promise, however, not to reveal what price you had to pay for such an ability. In case you've forgotten, she is under the impression that she has no eye. Sooner or later she will find out she does. My guess is sooner. And I will not lie to her if she asks me if I might have an idea how it happened. Knowing this was the best deal he was going to get, Naruto agreed. It's a bit complicated to explain, but basically I have this higher healing ability. Normally it means I can just recover from training and bruises faster. In this case though, I had to pay a bit of a price to regrow my eye. 20 years. It cost me 20 years of my natural life to regrow my eye. So you see, that's why I didn't want Erza to find out the repercussions of giving her my eye. Nodding in understanding, Makarov knew that a young girl like Erza might very well feel guilty if anyone told her what had happened. Can I see your eye then? If there are any problems with it, my friend is a very good healer and can help. Why did you have an illusion of whisker marks on your face anyways? Slowly unwrapping his bandages as there was no point in the get-up anymore, Naruto looked slightly confused at the last question. What's he talking about, Kurama? Is there something wrong with my face? As far as I know, I just hinged my face back to normal and wrapped the bandages over it and my eye. Yawning, Kurama decided to answer Naruto, as he knew he had forgotten to mention something before. Yeah, actually. When I regrew your body, I didn't bother to add the whisker marks back. Originally you had them so I could piss Kushina off when you were born since she was my container. And I never really had to regrey your face since we changed the seal, so I never removed them. Before the seal I only left them on there hoping to piss you off too. Nearly falling off the bench at the nonchalance of the answer, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle. Kurama did have a bit of a sense of humor. Adding birthmarks just to annoy its previous host. Oh well, a new face is fine. It was annoying having people recognize me so easily back home. Maybe this'll help. Naruto mused quietly. As he turned to look at Makarov, he was confused at the look of amusement on his face. Decided to honor that nice-and title, Naruto. It will certainly link the two of you as close to siblings as possible now. Pulling a mirror out of nowhere, Makarov decided to show him what he meant. What happened here, Fuzzface? My whiskers are one thing, but what happened to my eye? Don't know, must be from your mother's side of the family. Recessive genes and all that. Chakra isn't perfect, brat, now leave me alone. Besides, this brings you closer to Chibi Kushina now that she's your sister, doesn't it? Aware that both of his parents had blue eyes, even if his own were like his father's, Naruto couldn't help but tease Kurama a bit. Oh, you're such a softie, Kurama-chan. I know you did this because you couldn't bear to see Erza so sad about me leaving. When I show her, it'll make her happy again, which you probably planned from the beginning, didn't you? Naruto slyly asked his lifelong companion. Next time you get wounded, I'm just going to let you bleed out, brat. Well, my train is almost here, master. I guess the only thing I have to say is take care of Erza. Oh, and Rob Jai-san said he died because he ran out of magic. Don't let Erza train too hard then, or you'll deal with me. Naruto said the last part with an air of intimidation to convey how serious he was. Instead, Makarov just laughed. Don't worry about that, Naruto. Rob didn't die from using too much magic. No, he had a disease that would flare up and put strain on his heart every time he used magic. It's why he left the guild to live a peaceful life. Otherwise, how do you explain him never escaping beforehand and coming back with help? Oh. That makes more sense. Chuckling and rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment, Naruto stepped onto the train that had just arrived. Waving over his shoulder, he decided to take a quick nap before he headed back to the Tower of Heaven. TNT. At night saw him on the shores of the very island he had escaped from about a week ago. Dressed in dark clothes this time, he slowly crept up to the tower, careful not to alert the guards patrolling. Pulling a spare Anbu mask out of a scroll, he walked up the side of the tower to an open window. Still don't get why you didn't just kill Gel a week ago. Wouldn't have solved anything. Plus my clone sensed someone else in the room when it eavesdropped on him and Erza. Whoever it was must be pretty good to control him so easily. Can't have been that good. Gel is what, 11? How much power do you need to control a child like that? Maybe, but I doubt that I would find out who it was if I did kill Gel right then and there. I want to find the mastermind to this R system thing. If I kill Jello, then that person hiding would have just left and chosen to build the R system somewhere else. I'd never know who it is, so he'd be free to bring back monsters like Madara and Orochimaru. When I find out who the mastermind is, I can take them out at my leisure. Can you sense the person you felt in there now? I can't tell specific people apart. I can only sense two strong signatures for now. I'll have to sneak closer and find out what's going on. Don't use any genjutsu. If Makarov was able to spot your henge, then assume these guys will too. Use one of the ninja arts and avoid Kaiten and Doten techniques. Less chance of them recognizing you as the same person from a week ago. Taking Kurama's suggestions to heart, Naruto went through the seals and whispered Ninpo. Misegaku no Jutsu. Slowly his image faded until only slight distortions could differentiate between himself and the wall. Keeping in mind that he had to be quick and find his target, Naruto skillfully navigated the tower to the top floor. Once there, he quickly ducked into the room where Erza and Jello were tortured earlier. Making sure to stay silent the entire time, he noticed Jello was talking to an older silver-haired man about some sort of training. The man in question had neat silver hair that fell to his shoulders. Dark eyes and skin that resembled the native people of Kumo were his other distinguishing features. He also seemed to carry some sort of skull-shaped staff. Creeping closer to hear what was going on, Naruto was not disappointed for his efforts. Jello, we have already transferred the other kids to our base near Shiratsum. We must now begin your training. After you get to an adequate level, we will concentrate on rebuilding the tower. If that blonde-haired trash comes back, be sure to call me and I'll take care of him. The white-haired man spoke as he steered Jello out of the room. Fine, but we must make the tower our priority on our return. Remember who it is that Zara speaks to Brain. It is me and not you. Following after the now named Brain, Jelal descended the stairs until they both reached the ground floor. Do not fail again, Jelal. I care not if you speak to Zareth, you set us far back by allowing all the slaves to escape. Even now, we've only recovered a portion of the people. And not being able to take care of a single child mage, it's pitiful. Brain rebuked Jelal as they made their way out to the boats outside. Deciding he'd heard enough and confirming that Brain was indeed the person he felt earlier that week, Naruto revealed himself. Sorry to burst your bubble, fellas, but neither of you will leave this place alive. I've heard enough out of the both of you to know you plan to restart the R system. Combined with schemes to enslave more people and plots to go after some blonde mage, I feel it'd be safer to take you two out right now. Who are you and how did you get onto this island? It doesn't matter, I will crush a worm like you here and now. My plans will not be stopped by a mask-wearing wannabe hero. Brain then pointed his staff at Naruto and fired off a spell. Naruto dodged it quickly before returning fire. Raiden. Raiju Hashiri, his fist encased in lightning, a snarling wolf leapt from his palm before charging Brain head-on. Eyes wide in surprise, Brain barely had time to retaliate with his magic. Even so, this was the first time he'd seen elemental magic used like this. Tokoyami Kaisen Kyoku. A wave of dark magic filled with horror-stricken faces crashed against the lightning beast. Before the dust storm could clear, Brain heard Jell cry out from behind him. Turning quickly, he was able to see him pulled underground, leaving only his head above it. Fairly impressive for scum like you to be able to take out my apprentice. Don't think those cheap parlor tricks will work on me. Brain called out, hoping to lure the masked man out. Not knowing where his enemy was going to attack from next, but guessing it was from underground, Brain launched a preemptive strike. Akugurabiti. As the ground began to implode on itself, Naruto shot out of the earth and called out a technique he hoped would capture his opponent. Brain. Shichu Shibari. Brain could only watch in curiosity as nothing happened save 4 pillars erupting from the earth surrounding him. So he was caught completely off guard as they shot lightning out towards him and completely immobilized him. Now then, Naruto started, I would love to hand you over to the proper authorities and let them handle this. But I'm afraid that I can't let this tower continue to exist. And if you live with the knowledge of how to build one, I fear someone else will seek you out and try to do the same. So now that I have the two of you paralyzed, I can start to take this tower apart. Jello, you worthless piece of trash. Do something. Surely you have more power than this. Brain yelled as he hoped Jello would break him out. It's no use, Brain. Yes, I know who you are. I've been spying on you for quite some time, so trust me, you won't get away. Naruto lied as he was hoping to discourage them from escaping. Running out to the edge of the island and jumping on top of the water, Naruto turned after he made it a fair distance away. Brain, having thought the fool had left them there by themselves, was filled with a sense of impending doom as a wave of power descended upon him and Jell. Knowing it could only be the masked person out in the ocean, he continued to try and free himself. After he freed his hand, he could only watch in dread as the masked fighter yelled out his attack and he saw it rush forwards and engulf them all. Naruto, as soon as he got out a fair distance away, decided to launch his most powerful lightning attack. Normally used against large groups of enemies, he felt it would be great to use on the tower. The downside being it required massive amounts of chakra and well over 50 hand seals. That's why he had to have both of his enemies captured before he could attempt it. Otherwise they could stop him before he could even begin. Completing the last seal, Naruto gripped his right hand with his left and stuck his right palm out in front of him with the fingers pointed skywards. Raiden. Hiryugekizoku Shinton Raiho. A blinding light filled the heavens as a massive blue electricity blast rocketed from his palm and headed straight towards the tower and anything near it. Staying only long enough to confirm that nothing was left after that, Naruto decided to save his chakra and harassation back to Akane Beach where he'd left a new kunai. As he landed on the beach and swayed on his feet from the tiring effects of that massive jutsu, Naruto almost felt like dancing in victory. Until his tenant decided to kill his mood. Don't know why you're celebrating, brat. Instead of interrogating your enemy and taking apart the tower piece by piece to make sure no one could ever rebuild it, all you did was shoot jutsu like it was going out of style. What are you going on about now, Kurama? I completed my mission, didn't I? Destroyed the tower and found out the mastermind behind the plan. You may know enough jutsu to impress your copycat sensei, but that doesn't mean you are strong. I am only trying to warn you, Naruto. You no longer have me to rely on in a tight situation. True, that hasn't happened in years, but you are no longer the Anbu elite of 2 weeks ago. You are once again in the body of a 13-year-old. This means you are slower, weaker, and have less stamina than you are used to. Don't get cocky, brat. If you recall, last time you were this age it was me that had to bail you out of most situations. About to angrily retort that it wasn't true, Naruto bit his tongue and decided to review and see if he was getting cocky. Let's see, first there was Haku, yeah got help there. Taki. No Kurama had my back there too. Yuki no Kuni. No. Chuin in exams. No. Gaara. Definitely not. Damn, guess he's right. Okay Kurama you're right. I guess I do have to build my strength up again. Oh man it was bad enough going through puberty once, it's going to be hell a second time. Think of this as training you love so much brat. Since you don't have me to rely on as much, now you can become strong without anyone doubting you. If I were you though, I would try and train your sage mode with shadow clones only. If my chakra affected you so badly, I can't imagine what sage chakra would do to you. Only nodding his head in acceptance Naruto decided to find a place to sleep before he headed to Capital Crocus the next day. After which he would try and see if Sasuke landed on this world too, or a completely different one as he feared. Feeling his job was done, Naruto put his latest adventure out of mind and would almost completely forget about it come morning. Far above and away from the beach, Naruto didn't notice the airship that was floating above where the tower once stood. Inside of the ship sat a most displeased guildmaster. Not because his plans had been set back no, because he didn't know anything about this new mage. All he knew was that he used lightning magic but in an unusual way and he wore a mask. Brain. You are lucky I decided that the information you contain was worth me bothering to save you. Now tell me everything you know about your attacker. Do you think it's the same person Jelal described saving the slaves? The guildmaster of the Grimwar Heart asked from his throne on the observation deck. It was quite a room, boasting a glass dome, enforced by metal beams with an impressive view to the outside. Bowing his head to his acknowledged superior, Brain could only shake his head no. Jelal said the one that escaped him was a blonde fire mage who could use earth magic. This fighter used only lightning magic. At one point I believed he might be the same since he burrowed underground and then surrounded me with stone pillars. But those same pillars shot out lightning so it couldn't have been him. It is unheard of for one so young to wield 3 branches of elemental magic, so there is little hope it is the same person. I see, consider yourself lucky I had my minion transport you up here before you were killed. This mage is most interesting. He is not of a dark guild yet he does not show aversion to death. Keep an eye out for him and contact me if you find him. Jelal will not remember how he was saved, so tell him it was you that used teleportation magic to save him. In the meantime I will call Altair from her studies and have her restore the island. It will be a good test of her power. The dark old man mused out loud. I would suggest you leave before she gets here Brain. I will not stop her if she attacks you. And she is far more important to me than you are at the moment. Use the masked person's overconfidence against him. He believes you and Jelal dead, do nothing to bring forth his attention. Complete your plans without drawing attention to yourself. Of course master. I will just take Jelal and begin his training along with the other brats. Hopefully none of them will be a disappointment after all we put them through. With that, Brain rose from his position and walked out the door leaving the master to his thoughts. The most interesting mystery we have on our hands. I wonder who this new player is and what he knows. I will not allow him to interfere with my plans with the one true magic. If I can I will recruit him. If not, I will take him out with my own hand. Chapter 3. The Grand Crocus Library was vast and intimidating. To call it anything less than imposing would be an insult to the endless number of books gathered here. Books that had been added and found their way into this quiet domain over the years. The shelves and cabinets stocked so closely together and filled to the brim, so much so that not an inch of space was wasted in this titanic tower of books. Nearly 10 floors of knowledge with walkways crisscrossing from one end of the building to another, only adding to its commanding atmosphere. Even though the library was huge and left little doubt that it was meant for research, for some reason it only boasted 4 round tables in the middle of the first floor. Researchers would make do when visiting this library, often stacking books on top of one another in the middle of walkways and reading them there. Sometimes even building their own table out of other books. Luckily for them, the library was usually empty save for 1 or 2 people at a time. Access to such a vast wealth of knowledge, in the capital no less, was strictly regulated to minimize potential damage or abuse of valued information. Too bad there had been a certain blonde-haired shinobi with a penchant for ignoring the rules all set to do research. If he wanted a way into the library, he would certainly find it. Slipping into the locked building and keeping quiet about his presence was child's play to a shinobi of his caliber. The only thing he had to worry about now was making sure to stay on task during his information hunt. He was nearing the end of his month-long crusade into Earthland in search of answers, so he had to do as much as possible as quickly as possible while at the library. His biggest problem so far though was his failure to reliably identify the kinds of books he needed as he didn't know the library's catalog methods. The Jutsu library and history books in Konoha were stored in a vastly different method to what was apparently the standard here. Even worse was his growing frustration at not finding the answers in the books he did find. Nothing could endanger the future of the books more than an irritated Naruto. The reason he was at an impasse for his research. By that would be the sole blame of one other researcher in the library, a girl that looked to be about 13 or 14 years of age. This pale-skinned young woman, with dark purple almost black hair and brown eyes, was slowly and surely driving Naruto crazy. Outfitted in a pale blue sleeveless dress that ran down to her knees, she radiated an air of a serious and calm attitude. This girl wore her hair at shoulder length and had sandals to finish off her look. All in all, she was the main reason he hadn't gotten much done the last few days. Naruto didn't know how she had gotten a pass into the library, but he did know that because of her, he couldn't just spam as many of his clones as possible and drastically reduce his time looking for a solution to his problems. In the last few days that he had snuck in, she had made a habit to grab all 4 round tables for her own use and not leave until sunset. Naruto had enough of sneaking around and finally decided to drop in on her and hopefully fool her into thinking he was allowed in. After that, he would pretend his clones were magic or something and carry on with his work. Before he could do that though, he noticed that she took out a crystal ball of some kind and peered into it. Nodding her head a few times in apparent agreement, she then put it away and continued her reading. This brought up a whole slew of questions for him and most notably doubts about revealing himself. If she could, for example, call security on that thing, she would definitely get him kicked out. Ah, what are you waiting for, brat? She already knows you're here, just go and talk to her already. That way we can get the information we've been looking for. Kurama growled out, having gotten fed up with all the stalling his container was doing. How do you know she knows I'm here? Maybe I should go and talk to her. It would definitely help me get all this done faster if I could finally use clones. Think about it. That technique she used down there. Doesn't it remind you of a certain crystal ball back in the Hokage's office? And aren't you usually the subject of observation in said crystal ball there too? Shut up. I swear. Paint the Hokage monument once or twice and all of a sudden you're a security risk and should be watched at all times. Whatever, I'll go ask her about it. It's not like I was doing much up here anyways. Deciding to finally drop in on his library companion, Naruto revealed himself in the most direct way possible. By literally dropping in on the chair right next to her. Hey. What was that trick you just did with that fancy ball-looking thing? He asked with a smile on his face and genuine curiosity marring his features. He was hoping to open up a casual conversation with this girl so she could get used to his presence here without calling for anyone else. Startled, the girl jumped out of her chair and distanced herself from the stranger that had snuck up on her. She wasn't aware of any other person being allowed into the library today, but then again, this blonde-haired teenager couldn't have slipped in without a pass either. Irritation quickly overtook her feelings of surprise and she decided to get some info on this person. Who are you and what are you doing sneaking up on people like that? Don't you know it's rude to startle someone? And what do you want with me anyways? Fixing him with a cold glare, she waited on his answer. Hey Kurama, I thought you said she knew I was here. A panicked Naruto asked, hoping he hadn't just screwed up and gotten himself kicked out for trespassing. So I lied. What's new? Sweat dropping at the uncaring tone of voice from his tenant, Naruto decided the safest way out of this situation was to answer all her questions. Perhaps after that, she would be willing to answer some questions of his. Sorry about that. Name's Naruto. I guess I didn't notice how engaged you were with the book. I just saw you doing something with that crystal thing from up there, waving his hand to indicate the upper floors behind him, and was curious about it. I've seen something similar in my village, so I was wondering about what you did with it just now. Moving over to another chair so as to calm the girl down, Naruto kept talking, hoping to keep her quiet so no one would find out he broke in. Anyways. What's your name? And what's with that crystal ball thing? I think I've seen something like it before. Eyeing the blonde boy suspiciously but in the end deciding he wasn't much of a threat, she scoffed and sat back down to renew her reading. My name is Altair. And that crystal ball thing you mentioned is just a form of communication, Lacrima. I'm sure you've seen many others use it before. I was not aware I had to share the library today. When did you get here? She asked by raising a delicate eyebrow in Naruto's direction. Ignoring the question for now, Naruto decided to focus back on the now named Lacrima as he suddenly remembered its most popular use back in Konoha. Pointing a finger in her direction, his indignant shouts echoed in the library. Wait a minute. I remember now. The old man and leader of my village used to use his crystal ball to peep on the women's bathhouses. You're not perving on anyone like that, are you? Idiot. He's in for a world of pain now, Kurama thought to himself. The blush overtook Altair's cheeks and she dropped her mouth open in shock. Whether this was from embarrassment or anger, it wasn't apparent until she finally found her voice again. No, I am not a pervert. She picked herself up out of her chair and advanced on the blonde-haired annoyance to her research. Advancing slowly but with a determined step, she decided to make it very clear how wrong he was about her. But if that's the first thing that comes to mind when you see a communication lacrima, then maybe I should make sure you aren't a pervert either. Naruto, seeing her slowly advance and cracking her knuckles, could only whimper and hope her beatings wouldn't be as bad as Tsunade-bachan's or Sakura's either. So waving his hands in front of him and quickly dropping to his knees to beg, he started to quickly apologize. Sorry. It's just that, I didn't know what those things were, and I've only ever seen one or two people use it. I just hope you aren't like either of them. My pervy old village leader who was a guy and the new closet pervert one that's a woman. I've always tried to see what they're looking at, but they always acted like it was nothing. Her face still red, Altair wanted to make it very clear to this Naruto that she definitely wasn't a closet pervert either. Well, I'm not a pervert. Whatever. I have to leave soon anyways. And don't even think of using lacrima in that way for yourself. Just help me put all my things away and I'll forget this ever happened. She warned threateningly while shaking her fist in his face. Sensing a perfect opportunity to use his clones and learn where everything is put away, Naruto eagerly nodded and shouted out his favorite jutsu. Hajuo Cage Bunch, and instantly the library was filled with a few dozen new Narutos, and they all quickly made their way to the books on the tables to put them all away. Never having seen this magic before, Altair thought that maybe Naruto wasn't as harmless as he looked if he could make solid copies of himself. Inwardly she was surprised and curious at such a useful ability. So leaving the copies to do the work for her, she walked over to the original to get some answers. You're a wizard too, aren't you? What guild do you belong to? If he doesn't belong to any, he might be able to help me complete my ambition. Having stopped next to him, Altair watched as he nervously rubbed the back of his head in a sheepish manner. Closing his eyes and with a bashful smile on his face he answered her. Well, I'm actually not part of any guild. He said. Perfect. Now to find out how useful he can be, I won't waste my time on mere parlor tricks. Altair thought to herself. But I have been offered a position at Fairy Tail. Looking upwards and not noticing Altair's frown at this information he continued, but I'm actually a long way from home and looking for someone. I'm supposed to go back to Fairy Tail soon to check in with someone there, but I haven't found out as much as I wanted to from this library. Curiosity getting the better of her, Altair decided to ask him more questions. Is this person at Fairy Tail the reason you were offered to join? And what kind of information were you looking for? I might be able to help. Her name is Erza, and yeah, she is the reason I am debating whether I should join or not. I'm actually here in the library looking for maps and history books. Like I said, I'm a long way from home. I'm trying to see how far away I am, as I don't recognize any of the towns or landmarks around here. Naruto answered. He didn't want to reveal too much information about where he was from, so he decided to be a little vague with the little he shared. Erza, huh? Well, Fairy Tail is an up-and-coming guild, so she should be able to make a name for herself there if she's good enough. Altair commented. What she really wanted to find out was if she could still use him for her plans, even if he did join Fairy Tail. After getting a good look at him, she picked up on his eye color. Seeing as it was unusual, she decided to ask about it too. Your eyes? They're two different colors. Interesting. I've read about it, but never seen anyone with heterochromia iridium. Even if it runs in the family, it is still quite rare. Anyways, Erza, she must be important to you if you will join a guild for her. She's family, isn't she? Surprise shone on Naruto's face as she asked this. Not because of her thinking his eyes were natural and ran in the family, unlike what shinobi would think. Instead, it was because he didn't know how to answer her question. Erza was clearly important to him, he had donated an eye after all. Was she family to him though? Sure, he'd let her call him Nai-san, but so did Konohamaru. In the end, since he still hadn't found out how to get home, he decided that as long as he hung around Fairy Tail, then yes, Erza was family to him. After that, well, he'd cross that bridge when he came to it. Yeah, she is. Ah, well, my clones are done putting the books away. I hope I see you around more often, Altair-chan. I might be leaving soon too, but I'll probably stick around Fairy Tail for now. Having answered her question, he was surprised when she quickly leaned in and punched him on the shoulder. Don't add Chan to my name. We aren't that close. Altair growled out, but with a light red dusting on her cheeks. She couldn't decide if she was madder at him joining the guild or at his casual use of her name. Pouting slightly, Naruto rubbed his arm. At least she didn't punch me in the face like other girls used to do. Still, it's nice talking to someone that doesn't treat me like a hero just for making clones. A teasing smirk appeared on his face as he decided to rile this girl up like he used to all the other girls he met before he got sick of everyone's attention. Right. That's why you enjoy talking to her, the lack of hero worship. Masochist. Kurama added sarcastically. Shut up, furball. Aw, don't be like that, Altair-chan. Ow. You did it again, Altair-chan. You know, Altair-chan, with all the blows you keep sending my way, one might think we're not even friends, Altair-chan. He was laughing as he easily evaded her punches and added fuel to the fire. Who said we are friends? You're infuriating. Putting an end to chasing the blonde around the library tables, Altier decided that maybe, just maybe he would be useful to her in the future. She wouldn't admit it even to herself, but she found him interesting beyond even his strange magic. In time she'd find out more about him, for now she would leave him be and possibly add him to her plans later on. After she had finally stopped chasing after him, Naruto quickly ran over to her side once more and decided to get one last shot in. But of course we're friends, Altier-chan. I mean, you already know who I am and where I'm going to be. I'm sure you'll want to keep in touch with someone as awesome as me. Punching him once more, even if both knew he let himself get hit, she decided to ask him about his magic. What was that magic anyways? I answered about the lacrima, so it's only fair you answer. And get that silly grin off your face. I am no pervert. Haha, sorry Altier-chan. Those were shadow clones. A sort of special magic from where I come from. I can create solid copies of myself, and when they disperse, all the knowledge they gained is transferred to me. He explained to her, seeing as how he was going to stick around, the shadow clones were probably going to be his signature technique here too. That's an incredibly useful magic. And something tells me there's more to this guy than meets the eye. Master would no doubt have his own plans for him, so for now I'll keep information on Naruto to myself. Altier just nodded in understanding to his explanation as she kept her thoughts private. Well, as pleasurable as your company is, ignoring his laughter at her sarcasm, Altier continued, I have a very important meeting to go to. I will no doubt hear about your deeds if you join a guild, Naruto. Goodbye. Turning on her heel, she headed for the doors and was halfway out before she heard his last words. Bye now, Altier-chan. Gritting her teeth in frustration, she only turned to glare at him one last time before she left. Interesting female, that one. Now then, get on with the information hunt. I am immortal, but that doesn't mean I enjoy wasting my time in a library. And remember, we're supposed to be back in Magnolia by the day after tomorrow. Yeah, furball. I'll get to it. It was a nice break from sneaking around though. I wouldn't miss my deadline anyways, Kurama. I did make a promise after all. One more application of his favorite technique, and Naruto decided to sit back while he gathered as much info as possible. Reflecting on the last month that he had spent searching for Sasuke and failing, he was still confident his friend was alright. Now all he had to do was talk to Makarov and Erza, and then he'd decide what he would do if he found out he was stuck here. TNT. Fairy Tail 2 days later. Once again Naruto walked into what seemed to be a free-for-all brawl. Chairs flying, tables breaking, bottles smashing and magic being thrown around like it was candy. Walking through it all was akin to walking through a minefield. Shaking his head at their antics, Naruto couldn't help but think he would enjoy this place if he did join. For now he assumed he would just stick around Magnolia Town and occasionally venture out to search for Sasuke and a way back home. He'd found out a lot in that library. The sighting and confirmation of existence of dragons, even if rare, as well as the widespread use of magical items. Shinobi chakra and techniques may be more diverse and potent, but it seemed that lacrima more than made up for that here. Things such as communication lacrima, fuel lacrima and movie lacrima, just some of the few choices available for all people, not just mages. Although he didn't recognize any of the historical events that had happened here, it didn't mean much. The fact that there were dragons could mean he was just sent back in time. Dragons had long ago disappeared from the elemental continent, long before the Rikido Sennin, but they had existed. Many techniques were based off of their power after all. So since he hadn't ruled out being in a different dimension, and all history before the Rikido Sennin's time was lost, he was back to square one in finding out where he was stuck in. Having spotted the diminutive master as he walked in, he headed straight towards the bar and sat on the stool right next to him. Waiting for Makarov to finish his oversized mug of beer, Naruto looked around for Erza in the meantime. She's out on a job, my boy. Now then, today is the day you were set to return, so I'm sure she'll be here shortly. The mission was taken a few days ago so she could be back in time to see you. Let's go up to my office to talk. It's getting a little rowdy in here. Makarov then jumped off the stool and headed for the second floor without looking back to see if Naruto was following. Settling himself down in the offered chair once he got into the office, Naruto opened up the conversation. It seems I am indeed very far from home, master. Unfortunately I can't return yet. So I was wondering if after I spoke to Erza to get her opinion, would that offer to join still be open? Shrugging as if people joining his guild was an everyday occurrence, Makarov answered Naruto before deciding to ask some questions of his own. Sure. You can join. Before you do, you must know about us here in Fairy Tail. Like Erza said, we treat everyone here as family. When one cries we all cry, when one celebrates we all rejoice. You glossed over your home and this so-called war. Could you elaborate on that? And I do know what a shinobi is, even if I have never met nor encountered one yet. So you need to know that we don't condone or accept killing here. He finished that last part off with a serious look on his face. Well, I can explain about my village, I can't give away its secrets, master. Just because I don't live there for now doesn't mean I will betray it. The war was a revolutionary war in an attempt to overthrow our ruler. I believed it was well known, but as I said, I found out I am very far from home. My home is far to the east of here, farther than the Pergrin kingdom. I accept the no-killing rule. As a shinobi I was part of the military force to protect my home, so just because I can doesn't mean I will. At least not anymore, Naruto added to himself. That's alright, I guess. Truthfully, I would like to know more about what you asked last time. Makarov then held up his hand to silence Naruto before he could be interrupted. However, I respect that some things are secret and must remain secret even if you leave. Fairy Tail has much the same policy in place for anyone that leaves here. Have you found a safe way home or whatever it was that stopped you from returning a month ago? Naruto shook his head in the negative and spoke up. Unfortunately, I cannot return home just yet. You see, our village has a very strict no man left behind policy. I came to Fiori with a friend of mine and was separated. I cannot and will not return without him, or at least without finding out what happened to him. Not to mention we have no idea how. At least you managed to tell him enough half-truths to satisfy his curiosity without giving much away. Join the guild though, Naruto. It'll be your best bet to find a way back to Konoha. Naruto nodded and pulled a manila folder with paperwork inside out of his travel bag and showed it to Makarov. Oh, and I brought the paperwork you asked for, master. Erza told me of her last name and I decided it would be a good idea to get some papers for me as well. Reaching out and taking the paperwork from Naruto's hands, Makarov leafed through all the necessary information that he had brought. Raising an eyebrow in curiosity at what some of the information presented, he finished reading before commenting on what he saw. Letting out a slight chuckle, Makarov leaned back into his chair and eyed the noble blonde across the table from him. She will certainly be glad about this new development, Naruto. But are you sure you want this? I assume you did most of this because of the strong bond you now share between you. Naruto just grinned and rose from his seat. Of course I am, master. Now I think I'll just go out and wait for Erza-chan so I can talk to her. See you in a bit with my decision. Waving him out the door, Makarov couldn't help but think that Fairy Tail would certainly be interesting in the years to come. He couldn't explain it, but he got this feeling of great power from Naruto, and from the looks of it, Erza would benefit from having him around. She certainly needed it. The past month had been difficult for her. Erza had become more withdrawn following Naruto's departure. She was socially awkward, often maintaining a silent demeanor unless she was addressed first. That was a far cry from the excitable and smiling young girl he had seen entering the guild with Naruto by her side. Hoping that the outgoing and cheerful blonde would pull her out of her shell and help her overcome her demons from living as a slave, Makarov decided to head out and get the guild back under control. Having arrived sometime in the morning, Naruto only had to wait until about noon before Erza showed up. Apparently she was in a hurry as she had rushed into the guild and straight past him, heading directly to the bar and Master Makarov. She hadn't changed much from the last time Naruto saw her. Erza wore a green sundress he'd bought her with a simple armor breastplate and a sword hanging at her hip. Boots and a travel bag completed her ensemble as she strode quickly to the bar, ignoring everything around her. Knowing why she was in such a hurry, Naruto decided to head her off so he could talk to her about his decision. Erza-chan. It wounds me that you have forgotten me already. It's only been a month and yet, you just ignore me to get some food after coming in. I'm crushed. Of course he wouldn't be Naruto if he didn't tease her a bit, if only to get her to calm down. Freezing in her steps, Erza slowly turned to face Naruto. She had of course hurried back to the guild once completing her job. It was the day her Nai-san was supposed to return. The job request had taken a lot longer than she had planned, so she had thought to ask Master if Naruto had stopped by yet. She hadn't even thought to look around, but as soon as she heard his voice she knew he had indeed kept his promise to come back. Finally, having turned around, she took in the appearance of the one that had helped free everyone from the tower and brought her to Fairy Tail. She took in his appearance as he stood near the entrance of the guild. From the black loose pants that were tied off at the legs with white bandages, sturdy-looking sandals on his feet, to the white short-sleeved shirt with flames on the sleeves and an orange swirl on the front, also wearing fingerless gloves and 2 wristbands. All the way to his messy golden hair framing his face, framing his eyes, both of them. She gasped as she noticed the same eyes staring back at her that she now saw in the mirror on her own face. Nai-san. You're back. What happened to your eyes? Grinning at the look of surprise on her face, Naruto walked over to her and wrapped her in a hug. Well, we can talk about all that and more once we get somewhere a little more private, Erza-chan. Looking around, Erza realized that everyone in the guild was looking at her and Naruto now with interest. She glared at them and was satisfied with the way they all quickly averted their gazes. Chuckling, Naruto just shook his head in amusement before taking a hold of her shoulders and saying Horation. When Erza looked up at him to ask what he had said, she gasped in shock because they were now by the lakeshore she had often visited in the last month. She didn't notice as Naruto picked up a kunai he had implanted there earlier as she was busy rubbing her eyes, making sure this was real. Naruto walked over to a patch of grass and sat down, patting the ground right next to him for her to sit too. Come over here and tell me what I've missed this month, Amato. Erza beamed at his reminder that he fully accepted his new role in her life. For the next hour, Erza recounted the various simple jobs she'd been on with the guild. She told him of her training with Master to control her magic and of her visit to Polyusica to check on her eye. She didn't want to tell him that she had yet to make any friends here, but it didn't matter since she was sure that would come with time. As she finished telling him of her latest job, she then asked him what he had done in her absence. Naruto too told her of his travels. He told her how he searched for his friend hoping to find him. Ignoring her snickers whenever he told of getting lost, he told her of his time in the library. Naruto mentioned meeting Altair, but didn't think to elaborate on it as to him, it was just a standard to tease and talk to girls. Although he wasn't known as a ladies' man, he certainly did attract their attention in Konoha. He ended by pulling out a copy of the files he had given to Makarov and handed them to her for her to read. Before I left, Master Makarov asked me to get you some paperwork to file for the guild. It took a pinch of trickery and a dash of deceit, but I managed to register a birth certificate and all the necessary paperwork with the government. I also obtained some papers for me. Stopping at this point as he noticed she had tears in her eyes after reading through all the paperwork, he decided to get to the reason he brought her all the way out here. In a gentle but low tone of voice he voiced his concerns. I know I should have asked you sooner, Erza-chan. What with you being given the name Scarlet by Jelil and not knowing what it was before that. But since you called me Nai-san, I decided to list the two of us as family. Your name hasn't changed. I can't take that right away from you. You are still Erza Scarlet, born on October 1st X 765. Naruto let out a sigh as he hoped what came next wouldn't upset her. I hope you aren't mad that I listed myself as Naruto Scarlet, born October 10th X 763 and the last living member of your family. Erza, please say something. If you really don't like it I can go back and change my name. I can remove the part of us being in the same family and siblings. You can be emancipated instead of being in my care. Frantically shaking her head no, Erza decided to do away with any fears Naruto had. Sorry Nai-san. I'm not mad at this. I'm just so happy and grateful that you wanted to be and listed yourself as my brother. Does this mean you're going to stay Nai-san? Looking into her eyes and seeing nothing but yearning and hope staring back, Naruto knew there was only one answer to that question. Grinning widely and putting a hand on her shoulder he exclaimed, of course I'm staying Erza-chan. I have to take care of my Amato, don't I? I'll make sure you brush your teeth, bathe regularly, make your bed and clean up after yourself every day. Eating 3 square meals a day and enjoying the wonders known as ramen. I'll even have you eat some of those gross vegetables since apparently they're good for you. Bleh. Giggling at the enthusiasm Naruto showed, Erza felt happier than she had ever felt before. Crashing into him much like she had on the boat a month ago, she couldn't help but let out a few tears of joy. Pulling herself back and looking him in the eye, she asked the one question that had been bugging her since she first took off her bandages and looked in the mirror. Naruto Nai-san. Did you really give me an eye like Master Makarov said so? And how come your one eye is blue and the other brown like mine? Smiling softly at her and picking her up so they could walk back to the guild, Naruto answered her on the way. I promised I'd protect you Erza and take care of you. I was already kind of your brother because of that. A brother will do anything to help his little sister, even if it means giving her an eye. As for why it's brown. Well, I just needed to make it official that you're my sister. Hearing this made her next action completely justified to Erza. She went up to him and smacked him across the back of his head, hard. Master didn't tell me, but I bet what you did was really dangerous. There's no way it's easy to just give away an eye and get a new one. But thank you Nai-san. Just don't do anything that dangerous again. Kurama chuckled at this and decided to add in his own comments, told you Chibi Kushina would be mad. If you say I told you so one more time, I'm going to take up rapping just to annoy you like B did with Hachibi. Entering the guild once more, Naruto went up to what looked like a completely drunk master. He was on top of the bar dancing and waving his mug around while singing with a red tinge on his face. Deciding to enjoy it for the moment, Naruto waited until the song was over. This was going to take some getting used to after Anbu, but then again, Naruto always felt that those guys could have given even Neji a run for his money back when he had a tremendous stick shoved up his ass. Noticing that both of the Scarlet siblings had entered the hall and were waiting for him, Makarov addressed them. Naruto, so have you decided on joining yet? Come on now. It's not official until you have a drink with me. Naruto could only chuckle at the similarities to Gamabunta that Makarov just portrayed. Yes, master. I've decided to join Fairy Tail if you let me. Great news. Now then, where would you like your guild mark placed, my boy? Pick a color, any color. You look like the type that would enjoy having it on your lower back in the middle. Haha. Makarov nearly fell off of the bar at the image of Naruto having a tramp stamp of fairy tale. Thanks for the vote of confidence, master. Naruto responded in a deadpan tone of voice. If it isn't too much trouble though, I'd like it in orange and on my right forearm. Makarov pulled out the fairy stamper and was confused when a fairy tale tattoo didn't pop up after he pressed it down. Deciding to keep trying to see what was wrong, he didn't notice the look of understanding flash across Naruto's face. Must be because you don't actually have any magic. I think that stamp somehow connects to your magic so that the guilds can keep track of their mages. Well, I can't give you chakra just yet. I should be able to give you a small dose of magic, hopefully enough for the stamp to stick and not fade away. Thanks, Kurama. I'll have to ask about that sometime. For now I'll just make do with this stamp, and if it fades I'll draw it back on later or something. Ah, finally. My aim must be off with this thing. No more beer. Wine only from now on for me. Now that that's done, what are you going to do now, Naruto? Makarov asked as he tossed his mug at some random wizard, starting an entirely new fight in the guild hall. A smirk crossed his face as Naruto answered. Well, master, I think it's high time I start doing some jobs. I was checking them out earlier and found one that's just perfect for me and Erza-chan to do together. It'll give me some time to catch up with her and see how good she is. Oh, and what request was that? Makarov asked. A simple bodyguard mission. We have to protect this archaeologist guy transporting an important artifact here. Piece of cake. Naruto responded. After Makarov wished them luck, he walked over to Erza and they both traveled to Magnolia station to meet with the client in Harjan town. Here's hoping this escort mission doesn't turn out like his first one out of Konoha. Stupid brat doesn't have me to fall back on anymore. Bah, who cares? Maybe he'll take my words seriously from now on if he loses a finger or something. Kurama mused quietly to himself. Chapter 4. So did you pack plenty of food? A break in the silence and calm atmosphere of the woods. A group of travelers were walking though. Yes. An exasperated voice answered. Good. How about a sleeping bag? Weapons and money? Toothbrush? Are you going to give me the answer to that question I asked? For the last time, Nai-san. Yes, I brought everything you said. Even if I didn't, isn't it a bit late to ask now? Halfway through the job we picked. We've been on the road to Ira all day without seeing any store to resupply or anything. And no, I won't answer your dumb question from earlier. Erza groused after having Naruto nitpick and interrogate her packing skills for the job request. Naruto just huffed, crossed his arms and looked away. Well, excuse me for worrying, Erza-chan. Will you two please keep quiet? We took this road so we wouldn't be noticed. At the rate you're going we'll have every bandit and crook in the country after us. The elderly client interrupted the latest of the spats between the two fairy tale wizards. She had originally requested a team of about 3 or 4 to accompany her. At first refusing to believe that the guild would send 2 young children to fulfill the request put in. It wasn't until Naruto performed his copy magic skills that she allowed them to leave for Ira. Having spoken her opinion, everyone's attention was then diverted to the source of a thud heard a few paces in front of them. The noise had originated from a body being dropped carelessly and brought to their attention. Someone, tied up and obviously beaten quite badly, had been all but gift-wrapped for them and dropped on the road. Before any questions could be asked, a perfect replica of Naruto jumped out of the tree line and landed right behind the captive. This is the 3rd one so far, boss. There's 2 more waiting ahead, like 100 meters up the road. Do you want us to take care of them or let them be? The clone asked his creator while dusting off his hands. It acted as if taking down bandits was of no big concern. What do you mean it's the 3rd one? Asked the elder client before turning and facing the original young wizard. We should of course avoid the ambush they have set up ahead of us. I suggest we backtrack a little and make it to Ira later tonight. Naruto only shrugged indifferently before replying. You're the boss. I'll just have a clone wait with you here so you don't engage the bandits while me and Erza-chan go ahead and beat them up. This is the 3rd time a team of crooks have tried to ambush us and take away our cargo, so we might as well take them out now. Walking off to confront the bandits, he casually calls out the answer to her first question without looking back. My clones have taken up a perimeter around us since before we met up in Harjan town. This is the 3rd attempt by a group of bandits to ambush and steal your artifacts. This group got closer than the others, so I feel we should take care of them now and discourage another attempt instead of just running away. Erza could only nod grimly in approval and take her place at Naruto's side before starting to walk towards the hiding bandits. Even though Naruto acted carefree and goofy all the time, she knew he could be serious and downright scary if need be. Throwing around magic attacks like nothing, as evidenced in the Tower of Heaven, surely marked him as a strong wizard not to be messed with. Setting her jaw firmly, Erza resolved not to disappoint her Nai-san. I have to be strong, just like Naruto and Nikki. I won't disappoint him. Glancing at the serious expression on Erza's face, Naruto decided to use this opportunity to gauge her strength. She may have a sword, but he didn't know how skilled she was with it. Not to mention knowing very little of her magic. Besides, they were only going against some bandits. This would be a good test of her skills. He would of course only allow her to fight one at a time, but this was as controlled a fight as he could make it. Slowing their pace as they approached the aforementioned ambush point, Naruto pushes Erza forward and speaks reassuringly to her, "You're up, Erza-chan. Focus on your opponent and show me what you got. Everything else will be taken care of." Only nodding to show she understood, Erza ran towards the first person to jump out of the trees and get in their way. Before the male bandit could do little more than stick his hand out and call for them to halt, he is plowed into by an overly serious-looking 11-year-old. Naruto stays back a few steps and only glances at the other two bandits rushing out of the woods to help their partner in crime. He casually grabs two kunai from his leg pouch and tosses them at the two bandits. They skid to a stop from the kunai, barely missing them, and turn to glare at him. Naruto smirks in their direction before slowly walking forwards while cracking his knuckles. Bandit on the left speaks up, angry at this little kid daring to interfere in their work. "What's the big idea, runt? You want to get your face beaten in or something?" Bandit number 2 only smirks evilly in agreement. "Let's just finish these brats up quick before we head after that woman they're protecting." One of them pulls out a sword while the other pulls out a club from behind his back. Deciding not to engage in a battle of words with these two, Naruto only pulls out one more kunai. All the while looking over at Erza to see how she's doing. Not surprisingly, she is overpowering her opponent. Although Naruto can't see the beginnings of a sword style, for the most part she seems be swinging wildly and relying on brute strength. Making a mental note to go through some basic sword katas with her, he focuses back on his situation. Taking care of the thugs provided little more difficulty than when he had to capture the daimyo's cat as a genin. The entire ordeal takes little more than 5 minutes for him and Erza to wrap up. He only toyed with them long enough for Erza to finish them off one by one. After Erza knocks out the last of the group and ties him up, Naruto speaks up. "Good job, Erza-chan. Your sword work is a little rough around the edges though, so we'll work on that." Erza blushes slightly in embarrassment and shuffles her feet before Naruto continues his assessment. "Still, your load's better than I was when I first used a sword. Lucky for both of us, I had to receive a little bit of sword training back home, so I can help you improve on that front. I need to get back into proper shape too, I've been a bit lazy lately. Let's head back and complete this job so we can go home." After Naruto piles all the bandits on top of each other under a tree, he starts walking off to head back to their client. Erza sweat drops and rushes after him. Pulling on his arm to get him to stop, she explains what she's doing after he turns around and looks questioningly at her. "Nai-san, you're heading the wrong way. Asami-san is in the opposite direction." She points down the road towards their waiting client. Naruto stares at her, a blank look on his face once again. Erza resists the urge to palm her face in annoyance at the clueless look on her and Nikki's face. "Asami-san is the customer. The one we've been protecting the last couple days." "Oh, the bossy lady. Sorry about that, Erza-chan. Her name must have slipped my mind. Doesn't help that I thought she was a he at first either," Naruto says as he rubs the back of his head in embarrassment. After meeting up with Asami, the trio once more took off towards Ira. Everything seemed to be coming along smoothly until they reached a rickety bridge joining one end of a canyon to another. A canyon they absolutely had to cross to reach Ira. The gap between the two cliff sides amounted to about 30 or 40 meters, too far to even attempt to jump if not inclined to use the bridge. A raging and violent river could be heard down on the canyon floor and only served to emphasize how dangerous this could be. "Well, I think we should take this bridge one person at a time." Their client spoke up, deciding to take charge. "Once I reach here, I'll put in a work order to get this bridge fixed up. In the meantime, let's not take any unnecessary risks on crossing." No sooner had Asami said this when Naruto, with a running start, leapt into the gorge. Gasping and cursing the recklessness of youth, Asami could only hope he lived and was okay. Especially considering he was the one carrying the priceless archaeological artifacts her team had uncovered. Running to look over the edge of the canyon, she was very surprised to find him sticking to the walls like some sort of spider. He was sticking straight out from the walls little more than a foot below Erza and Asami. "What are you doing, Nai-san?" Erza asked curiously, peering over the edge next to Asami. Unlike Asami though, she seemed to think this sort of thing was normal for all mages and was completely calm. Maybe she'd learn it herself one day, besides, she knew Naruto must have had a reason to jump over onto the rock walls. "I'm making a better bridge. I don't know how long it'll last though, so stand back." Flashing through numerous hand seals, he slammed his hands onto the rock wall before calling out his technique. "Oten. Doryu Heki." A massive slab of earth erupted underneath Naruto and stretched all the way to the other side of the canyon. After this, Naruto dropped off the wall and landed a ways below his newly created stone walkway. Once he stuck to the wall again, he called out to his companions above. "I'm not done yet. I have to reinforce the bridge." Naruto went through a few more hand seals and called out his second technique needed to complete the bridge. Oten. Genchuso. Making sure that his technique didn't have sharp ends and instead only erupted under the bridge's pillars to hold the weight up on both ends, he then ran up the canyon wall and landed next to Erza. "It should be fine now. Let's go. I didn't really trust that last bridge, so I thought that I would make a sturdier one." Erza and Naruto stepped onto the bridge and walked to the other side. It wasn't until they arrived there that they noticed their third traveler hadn't come with them. "Asami-san. Are you coming? You're not afraid of heights, are you?" Erza called out innocently after seeing their client gaping in disbelief after what had just occurred. Shaking herself out of her stupor, Asami quickly joined the fairy tale wizards on the other side. The rest of their journey to Ira was relatively boring for some and rightfully peaceful for others. Asami could only shake her head at their method of crossing the canyon. Earth-style mages weren't exactly rare, but them using their abilities outside of combat was. Combine that with his already impressive clone magic, and this young wizard was full of surprises. Most wizards simply didn't think to use their power to accomplish something as simple as crossing a bridge. To see one so young throwing around spells, powerful ones too, like that was surprising and impressive. After they reached Hira, Asami led the duo to the Magic Council headquarters located on the tall rocky mountain in the middle of town. Headquarters in Hira were truly a sight to behold. Resembling an ancient castle more than anything else, the building was both beautiful and imposing when looked at. Brightly lit hallways and marble-clad floors showed off the wealth the council surrounded itself in. Asami led them past the guards at the gates and straight to the central office on the first floor of the building. She called for one of the amphibious employees to lead Naruto to the storage area for the artifacts. Asami also gave directions for Erza to head to the payment office for the job, while she stayed behind and signed all the necessary paperwork that needed to be filled in. As he was led away from Asami, Naruto couldn't help but stare at his guide. He realized that at this point in his career there should be little that surprised him, but sometimes even he was left speechless. This is one freaky looking dude. Here I thought magic couldn't get any crazier. I wonder if this is one of Gamakichi's long lost relatives or something. You'd think that after seeing crazy magic things all month I'd be used to this by now, but no. "We are here," Scarlet-san, Naruto's guide said to him after opening a massive metal door into a warehouse-sized room. "If you wouldn't mind satisfying my curiosity, Scarlet-san. I was under the impression that the artifacts would be quite large and not something you can carry around in a travel bag like you seem to be doing. Could you show them to me before putting them away?" Naruto quirked an eyebrow at this odd request. He then remembered where he had put what he referred to as dirty old pieces of junk and rocks before embarking on their journey. Putting his bag down, he searched through his things until he found the particular scroll where he had sealed the stuff in. Rolling it open and after releasing a burst of chakra, a cloud of smoke fills the air, revealing a large jade dragon and several slabs filled with ancient runes and hieroglyphics. Chuckling at the astonished expression on the guide's face, Naruto then put away the artifacts in their reserved areas before leaving in search of Erza. As Naruto was being led away towards the subterranean storage areas of the archaeological section of the Magic Council, Erza was navigating the first floor hallways to find the payment office. While she would never allow herself to think that she was as bad at directions as Naruto, even she was starting to get annoyed at not finding the payment office. Hallway after hallway, door after door, they all looked the same to her. You'd think the council would have a little more originality when decorating around here. "Oh, Nai-san will never let me live this down if I end up getting lost just like him," Erza internally wailed. After wandering around for a few more minutes, Erza finally spotted someone exiting an office with a stack of files and headed somewhere else. Hurrying to catch up to her and get proper directions, Erza called out to the teenage girl who looked only slightly older than her. "Excuse me, miss. I hate to bother you, but I was wondering if you could point me to the payment office. You see, we just helped escort some important artifacts for the history department and now we need to receive our payment so we can leave." Erza hastily explained, hoping this girl would help and not just ignore her. Said brown-eyed girl turned and merely stared at the redhead in front of her. Debating on whether it was worth her time to help or not, she carefully took in her appearance. Slightly impressed, despite herself, Altair respected the fact that this girl wasn't fidgeting in her presence or put off by her cool stare. "My name is Altair, I am an administrative intern for the Magic Council. Follow me and I'll lead you to the payment office." Stopping only long enough to make sure Erza understood her, Altair turned on her heel and led her up several floors and hallways towards the payment office. Deciding to try and find out some information, Altair struck up a casual conversation with the girl following along behind her. Tell me. I don't believe I caught your name. Erza Scarlet from Fairy Tail, Altier-san. Erza answered. Altier, having recognized the name after hearing it only a few days ago, chose to glance back and take in this girl's appearance once again. Only now noticing the unique set of eyes staring back at her, Altier scolded herself for not picking up and connecting who this was sooner. Ah yes, Erza. So tell me, Erza. What is it that you are doing here in here? I believe I heard you say we earlier as well, did you not come alone? Altier asked in a deceptively casual tone of voice. The only reason a guild wizard would be here was a delivery job or escort job that one of the council's departments didn't want the rune knights to waste their time on. This would usually be of no concern to her, but she still liked to keep an eye out in case the government ever stumbled upon an artifact that could be of use to her or her own guild. We had to deliver some artifacts that Asami-san found on Dragon History, I believe she said. I'm not exactly sure what they are, she didn't tell us much. I didn't come alone, I'm actually here with my Nai-san, and we are only waiting to get paid before we leave again. Erza seemed to be staring off into space trying to remember something and only answered Altier's question absent-mindedly as she was following along behind her. Your Ani-san. His name wouldn't happen to be Naruto, would it? I think I've met him before. You both have a unique set of eyes. Altier asked as she slowed down to open another door leading them to their destination. The look of recognition appeared on her face and Erza happily answered. You know Naruto and Nikki. That's right, he did mention meeting a girl named Altier in a library a few days ago. She then ducked her head and murmured a few more words that Altier couldn't quite catch. Altier tried and failed to suppress the small smile on her face after hearing that Naruto had spoken of her to Erza. The day after having met Naruto, Altier tried to look up any information available on him that he had registered in order to be allowed into the library. Imagine her surprise when no records of him being granted a pass showed up. Luckily she found out some basic information on him that he'd registered with the government, including his name, age, and available family. What had really impressed her though was that he was able to sneak in and research in the normally heavily restricted and patrolled library. Apparently he wasn't one to blindly follow the rules if he needed something badly enough. Perhaps meeting Erza provided an alternative opportunity to gaining his trust and using him for her plans. She finally worked that smile off her face and turned to ask Erza one more question. What did he say about me? An embarrassed look graced Erza's features and she looked away slightly before mumbling her answer. Even though she didn't quite hear Erza's answer, her body language conveyed to Altier exactly what Naruto must have said to her. Freezing in her steps, Altier rounded on Erza and tried to rein in both her temper and embarrassment. I don't care what he said. I am not a pervert, do you understand me? Nor am I excessively violent or unfriendly. Chuckling nervously, Erza could only nod in agreement as the air around Altier had turned ominous and imposing after she had obviously guessed what Naruto told her. Sure thing, Altier-san. I didn't believe him anyways. I'll be sure to tell him not to lie about other people. See that you do. Altier remarked before coming to a stop in front of a nondescript door with a plaque saying it was the payment office on it. Well, just walk in and let them know you are done. Asami-san will have filed all the proper paperwork already to confirm a completed job request. I will let you see yourself out as I am fairly busy and have some work of my own to do. She was halfway out the door before deciding to act on this new opportunity as it was presented to her. If you are ever in here again, specifically the Magic Council headquarters, and are in need of assistance, just find me and I will aid you in what I can. I can already tell you will make quite a name for yourself, Erza, you and your brother both. Walking out the door, she didn't bother to look back to see what Erza would do. Altier smirked and congratulated herself on enacting a plan that would surely benefit her in the future. If I can get his own sister to approve of me and manipulate her, there's no telling what I can get Naruto to do. Now then, Naruto, the ball is in your court. Prove to me that my interest in you is not misplaced. Make a name for yourself so you can have the honor of helping me in the future. As Altier walked out the door, Erza counted herself lucky that she had met a potential ally in the ruling body of the government. Altier-san is nice, but I don't think I'll say anything to Naruto and Nikki for now. He needs to learn not to exaggerate stories about other people. Who better to teach him than the very person he lied about? I'll just let them work it out if they ever meet again. TNT. Magnolia Town 2 days later. We're finally home. Let's go celebrate completing our first successful job, Erza-chan. To a ramen shop. Naruto exclaimed loudly, stepping off the train in Magnolia Station and into the hustle and bustle of the crowd. Before he could take off and possibly get lost on his search for food, Erza decided to intervene. We should check in with Master Makarov first, Nai-san. Then we can either go on another mission or maybe we could look at places to stay at now that you're staying here. She was happy he already considered Magnolia home and she hoped that she'd be able to see it as home now that he was here to stay too. Formerly it had seemed more of a temporary stop since Naruto had left her there and she awaited his return. Eh? What do you mean we, aren't you staying in Fairy Hills, Erza-chan? I'm sure I can camp out in the woods for a few days while I find a place for myself. Naruto said as he was walking in and out of the crowd of people. Erza winced slightly at the perceived dismissal of her hopes. She had hoped that Naruto would be willing and happy to live with her. Before she could retract or defend what she was saying though, Naruto spoke up again. Let's go eat at the guild and then you can help me find a place to stay. Looking back to make sure Erza was following him, Naruto smiled at seeing her mood lift a bit. I need at least a two-person place so my Yamato can have a place to stay whenever she visits. Who knows, maybe one day I'll find she completely moved in, if and only if she didn't like her old place. He offered teasingly. Smiling widely now, Erza hurried to Naruto's side and grabbed his hand, dragging him off to Fairy Tail as soon as possible. The sooner they ate and got everything done, the sooner she could convince him she should stay with him for good. When they reached Fairy Tail, Erza pulled Naruto along to the bar to place an order for some food. Having that done, she dragged him off to a corner table for two, believing he didn't notice how she ignored nearly everyone that was staring at her. In truth, Erza spent very little time at the guild. Usually busy out doing jobs or training, she was seen as a very private person and most could respect that. Gray Fullbuster, unfortunately, was not one of those that could. Once again he caught a glimpse of that red-haired newbie that had yet to try and make friends with anyone in the guild. Even though she was rarely in the guild, he felt that she should at least make an effort to get to know the people her age better. Especially a wizard as powerful as he. He sat at a table with two others his age and was debating on what he should do while looking over at the two newcomers to the guild. The guild is as loud as ever, guys. Hey, I wonder who that blonde guy is sitting over there with the new girl. Voiced a young Levi McGarden. Levi is one of the few young members of Fairy Tail. Wearing a yellow tank top and shorts, the most notable trait she has is her short blue hair. Known for her cheerful and upbeat personality, she would like nothing better than to get to know Erza, but she just hadn't had the time to do so just yet, often out on jobs of her own and never running into Erza. She's always by herself, isn't she? I remember Master Makarov accepted a new member a little while ago. I think it was that guy she's with now. Kana Alberona answered Levi. Brown hair tied into a high ponytail with bangs framing her face and wearing a yellow checkered sundress, Kana had been at Fairy Tail the longest amongst the children. Another one of the unfortunate orphans to have joined Fairy Tail, she too had tried to make friends with Erza. Like the few others before her though, she had also been completely ignored by the crimson-haired girl. Well, I don't like it when any newcomer doesn't introduce themselves to me, the Great Grey. Boasted Grey Fullbuster, a dark-haired boy with a questionable stripping habit. A habit he enacted all too often, as even now he was clad in only his boxer shorts and nothing else. Anna threw him an incredulous look. Since when did you start being such hot stuff, Grey? Levi frowned as Grey got up from his seat and started walking over to the two who had just received their food. Don't do anything dumb, Grey. Be nice, they're both new to the guild, Master wouldn't like it if we tried to bully them. Ignoring their complaints, Grey arrived at Naruto and Erza's side. Hey you. Naruto ignored him, seeing as he was busy eating food and had been scolded by Erza not to talk with his mouth full. Not only that, but he was interested in seeing how little Erza would react. He had noticed how she took them and sat them apart from anyone else in the guild. How she had at first sat here with a relaxed air around her, but now she tensed and adopted a detached persona to deal with this person. What did you expect, brat? She lived as a slave for who knows how long. She was tortured and had her eye removed. Leaving her alone and taking off for a month would do little to help her overcome whatever wall she's built up to protect herself. Kurama growled out. He too had noticed how Erza had reacted and although he would never admit it, he had taken an interest in her welfare. Mostly because of how she acted around Naruto, it amused him how she kept him in line. Inwardly nodding at what Kurama had said, Naruto decided he would sit back and see where this was going. It's unfortunate that I had to leave her alone, but we both know it was necessary. She's my Yamato now though, so I will watch out for her and protect her. I have plenty of time to spend with her now, I know she won't change overnight, so I'll take my time with her. By this point Grey was getting fed up with the silence. So looking them both over for anything he could say next, he decided Erza was the easier of the two to pick on. This is a wizard's guild. It ain't a place to be wearing armor. Naruto looked over at Erza, seeing she hadn't reacted yet he shrugged and leaned back into his chair to enjoy the show. He did make a mental note to find a tailor and order some vests to be made for himself. After going years wearing armored vests of both Anbu and Jounin, he felt vulnerable without one. Once again hearing no response from either of them, Grey lashed out with his foot looking to kick their table over and get a reaction. Instead, faster than he could see, his leg was stopped mid-swing. His other leg was kicked out from under him, and as he was falling he was flipped over onto his stomach, with his arms ripped backwards and held behind him, so he couldn't prevent his fall. Landing hard and painfully, he wondered if he had made a mistake in trying to intimidate either one of them. Sitting on top of an incapacitated Gray, Naruto decided to finally speak up. You know, it's quite rude of you to interrupt our meal. More so if you don't know the person you're interrupting, and judging from Erza-chan's reaction, you don't know either one of us. Maybe you should apologize, eh? Hero team. Erza stood in motion for Naruto to get off Gray, allowing him to sit up. Maybe you should wear something yourself, knave. Last I heard this wasn't a pervert's guild. The members of the guild that had been watching this confrontation all erupted into laughter. Some of the older members even getting a few shots in on Gray, obviously believing he had stepped out of line. Levi and Kana rushed over to Gray to see if he was hurt and stop him from doing anything to further humiliate himself. Gray just stood and stomped out the doors of the guild. Angry at how easily he'd been taken down and embarrassed at what had happened only moments ago. Levi just watched him go, giving him some space to cool off. She turned to the two who'd embarrassed her friend and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry about Gray. He gets a little hot-headed sometimes, and in his own way he just wanted to introduce himself to the two of you. I'm Levi McGarden. Kana introduced herself next, Kana Alberona. I'm sorry about Gray too. I didn't think he'd react like that. Looking over at Erza, Naruto noted she wouldn't do anything unless he acted first. He sighed and stuck his hand out to shake both of theirs. Naruto Scarlet, nice to meet you. Erza stepped up next to present herself. Erza Scarlet, pleasure to make your acquaintance. Wide-eyed and nearly bouncing with happiness, Levi stared back and forth between the two. So that's why you've been so quiet lately, Erza-san. You were just waiting for your Ani-san to show up and join us here in Fairy Tail. I can totally see the resemblance between the two of you. Erza developed a tick mark over her eye, not quite knowing how to feel after only interacting a short while with the excitable brunette. Bursting out in laughter at the look on Erza's face, Naruto hurriedly threw an arm over her shoulder and pinched her cheek. Is that so, Amado? You've been moody and grumpy when I wasn't here. Well, don't worry about it anymore. The great and powerful Naruto Scarlet is here to stay. Erza merely huffed and tried to act as if Naruto was annoying her. She crossed her arms and turned away, but not before everyone caught a glimpse of the smile on her face. Even if it wasn't much, she enjoyed the little moments where Naruto stated with certainty that they were family now, and she would put up with his teasing on those occasions. Kana merely smiled at the familial interaction between the two. Well, now that Gray is gone. Would you two like to join us for lunch? I think we should get to know each other better now that we are all a part of Fairy Tail. Knowing that Erza wasn't quite so comfortable with that idea, Naruto chose to decline for the both of them. Sorry Kana, but we have to go look at apartments and places for me to stay. Maybe some other time nah. I kind of wanted to get some training in too, before we left for that. Crestfallen at this answer, but hoping Erza would be more open now that Naruto was around, Levi and Kana just agreed with what he said. Quickly giving directions to East Forest so they could train, Levi waved goodbye at them as they left the guild. The wizard duo found themselves clearing a ways into the forest where they could properly train. There was plenty of open space, a few trees and boulders for cover, and a river nearby for any Suitin jutsu Naruto wanted to use. Looking around in satisfaction at where he was, Naruto turned to Erza to begin their training. How did you want to start our training, Nai-san? I'm not an earth mage or a fire mage, but I can spar with you if you want. Master Makarov mostly makes me meditate and do little things to control my magic, but I'm sure you know some of those already, so can you show me anything else? Erza asked, curious as to how powerful and advanced Naruto really was. She remembered what he did at the Tower of Heaven and later on at the canyon to cross it. Naruto smirked and put his hands together into the dog seal. A fierce wind began whipping around his body before concentrating on his fist. He took a step to the left and then thrust his fist towards a huge boulder away and to the side of Erza while calling out his technique. Gyuden. Senpuken. The wind launched from his fist toward the ground apart on its way to the boulder. Once it reached the rock, it tore it apart completely, cutting it to pieces and going straight through, not stopping even after it cut through several trees in the distance. Who said I'm an earth or fire mage? My specialty and the element I have complete mastery of is actually wind. Naruto said to a wide-eyed Erza. Grinning from ear to ear at her expression, Naruto continued his explanation. I don't know if you picked up on it before, Erza, but I'm not a wizard or mage. I'm actually a shinobi. I have seen wizards do some amazing things with magic this past month, not the least of which was you at the tower. The thing that stood out the most to me though, was the fact that they are very specialized with magic. Shinobi, while restricted to 5 elements plus the illusionary arts, have a more diverse field to pick from when it comes to attacks. There are earth, water, wind, fire, and lightning techniques one can learn. There's more to it than that, but I don't want to get too specific since it'll take too long. As for me, I have mastered wind, I'm really good at lightning, and can do several techniques of each element in fire, earth and water. Wow, so cool, Naruto and Nikki. Erza jumped up and down. She rushed over to him and began looking him over as if he were a new toy. Can you teach me any of those things, Nikki? Can you please? She asked wide-eyed and with her hands clasped together in a begging position. Naruto was happy that she acted her age around him, he much preferred this Erza to the one she showed in Fairy Tailor to clients. He couldn't let her dreams get ahead of herself, however. I'll try, Erza-chan, but there's no guarantee it'll work. Shinobi trained to use these techniques since they are 6 years old, you might be past the age where you can do it anymore. I promise that we'll try either way, and besides, there's plenty of other things I can teach you besides ninjutsu. Erza sighed but didn't let herself feel down about this. Naruto and Nikki, you haven't told me much about where you came from or anything before we met. Is any of that going to be a part of training? Naruto gave her a grin before replying, if I tell you too much at a time, you'll probably forget it all. Plus my old job required I maintain certain amounts of secrecy on certain missions I undertook. But if you want, I'll answer one question a day truthfully and to satisfy your curiosity on the condition that you don't tell anyone else what we talk about. We'll call them family secrets, okay? Careful, brat. Just because you want to be open with her doesn't mean it won't have its consequences. Make sure you only tell her what she can handle. Don't traumatize Chibi Kushina over there with your war stories, or I'll make sure to give you nightmares every night of those 2 green-suited furry eyebrow freaks. Nodding resolutely, Erza replied in a serious tone of voice. Of course, you can count on me, Nai-san. Family secrets will stay in the family. In a flash, Naruto was by Erza's side, pinching and pulling at her cheeks again. Oh, you're so cute when you try and be serious, Erza-chan. I only do this so we can work better together on jobs and during training that requires trust. Slapping his hands away, Erza asked a question she had long been curious about. So what does that tattoo on your left shoulder mean then, Nai-san? When I first saw it, I thought it was a guild mark. Naruto smirked as he looked at Erza and wagged a finger in her face. No, Erza-chan. I'll only tell you that if you tell me where you put your own guild mark and why. I've been bugging you about it for days now and you still haven't budged. Erza blushed as she realized she'd probably be teased mercilessly about this. Shuffling her feet and rocking back and forth nervously, she finally blurted out her answer. It's on my left shoulder just like your cool tattoo is. I put it there because I want to be just like you, Nai-san, and I hope that you would come back for sure if I tried and grew up to be as strong as you are. Astonishment then pride were the looks flowing across Naruto's face after hearing that. Leaning forward a bit and looking her straight in the eye, he tried to wordlessly convey feelings of pride and joy to her, no teasing or anything else involved. Ansatsu Senjutsu Takusho Butai, or Anbu for short. Revealed Naruto, we are the shinobi hand-picked by our Kage or village leader for our individual capabilities and special skills. We are the best of the best amongst our peers and specialize in espionage, infiltration, counterintelligence, sabotage and assassinations. With a gesture at his shoulder he continued his breakdown of the tattoo, this mark here sets us apart from our peers. It signifies that we answer only to our village leader and no one else. Only the most difficult of missions in or out of the country are handed to us. A rank and S rank assignments are the typical missions we are handed, anything below that is deemed too easy to be handled by us. Eyes wide and fit to burst out of their sockets, a gaping mouth and a long drawn-out intake of air, these were all symptoms exhibited by Erza Scarlet after hearing how highly skilled the Anbu were. Wow, Naruto and Nikki, you're so awesome. That's not quite the reaction I was expecting from her. Naruto thought to himself, a sweat drop on the back of his head. Even so, he felt a great amount of amusement after watching Erza literally jump up and down with excitement from the possibility of being trained by such a powerful person. Indeed, that is quite an impressive resume, especially for one so young. Although, I do have to wonder why you kept this to yourself earlier. Startled out of his musings, Naruto instantly jumped away from the voice and stationed himself between Erza and whoever it was that had managed to sneak up on them. Lowering himself into a defensive position and already starting to weave hand seals for a jutsu, he waited for his unwanted guest to show himself. Makarov Dreyer walked out of the shadows of the trees and laughed at his reaction. Waving a hand dismissively at Naruto before he started apologizing, he explained what he was doing out there. Sorry about that, kids, I didn't mean to interrupt your training, but I was on my way back from visiting my good friend Perusuka and couldn't help but overhear the last bits of your conversation. Naruto shrugged and straightened, that's alright master, it's our own fault for overreacting. We should have been more aware of our surroundings while starting to train. Makarov shrugged at his reply, but noted how Naruto's first instinct was to jump in front of Erza to shield her. Inwardly pleased at how protective of her he was getting, Makarov shook it off to get to the point of why he interrupted their conversation. I hate to ask this, as it's obvious you two have yet to start training, but could you give us a moment of privacy, Erza? "Don't worry my child, it's nothing bad, I just have a request to make of your Ani-san." Naruto tilted his head in confusion, "Why? If it's nothing bad I'm sure Erza would be able to keep this to herself if you so wished." "Perhaps, but please, consider this a personal favor to me then Erza-chan," Makarov pleaded. Slowly looking to Naruto for confirmation, Erza nodded and started to leave the clearing. Naruto created a clone to go with her to let her know when to come back and keep her entertained in the meantime. "So I'm guessing this has to do with my Anbu status, right master? Let me assure you that our deal stands. I will not take a life or put myself in a position for that to happen so long as I am a member of Fairy Tail as per guild policy." While Naruto was speaking, Makarov moved over to a log and took a seat. "Well, I'm thankful for that, more so now than when we first agreed to it. However, this has to do with another one of your specialties in Anbu. Espionage and infiltration if I recall correctly." Joining him and taking a seat, Naruto waited patiently for Makarov to elaborate. He could see that the Sandane Guildmaster of Fairy Tail was deep in thought at the moment. "I have been hearing troubling rumors of many dark guilds all over Fiori. There is a specific guild however that troubles me most. Not because of what I hear they plan, but because of the lack of information known about them. I find myself unsettled at not knowing what they are up to." Makarov rubbed his forehead in irritation and then chose to continue. "I now you know what dark guilds are so that's unimportant. What I wish to ask of you, because of your skills and expertise, is to either infiltrate this guild or somehow spy and keep an eye on their movements." Adopting a look of concentration, Naruto ran over all the pros and cons of this request. It sounded right up his alley, but he knew he needed more information. Then again, information was exactly what they didn't have and the point to this mission Makarov wanted him to take. Eyeing him closely and noting how serious he looked, Naruto decided to take a leap of faith. "Alright master, I'll do this. Could I ask what guild you want to keep an eye out for and who specifically I should tail?" His face was scrunched up as he turned to face Naruto for the first time. Makarov explained things a little more in detail. "You don't have to stay there long-term Naruto. Just keep an ear to the ground for their activities and every once in a while break in and do some snooping around their guild. The reason I ask this of you and wish to keep it quiet is because this would be considered an act of war from one guild to another and the Magic Council specifically forbids that. This guild however is dangerous enough that I believe the risks involved are worth it for breaking that law. Especially since the council continues to ignore my warnings about them." Naruto sighed and conceded the point. Sometimes, a little bit of risk would go a long way towards ensuring your safety. He knew this from personal experience and that illegal infiltration was the bread and butter of the shinobi world. "Very well master, I understand. Now what guild is it and do you know who the master is so I can scope them out?" he asked. The grave look came over his face, with a flare of pain taking hold of his eyes. Makarov remained silent for a few moments before. "The guild I want you to find and infiltrate is named Raven Tail. The guild master is none other than Ivan Dreyer my son." Chapter 5. Cries of frustration echoed and abounded all throughout the small grassy clearing. Naruto and Erza, trained in deep within East Forest of Magnolia. Clangs and booms of sword meeting kunai along with fists meeting armor were the most prevalent sounds. Small craters littered the clearing, and obvious signs of swordplay could be gleaned from looking at the trees and boulders. It had been a little over a month since Naruto had joined Fairy Tail and taken to training Erza with swords. While in Anbu, he had been forced to learn how to fight with and against a ninjato and the Chikudo that both Sasuke and Sai favored. While he certainly wasn't at their level yet, he'd learned plenty when fighting against them. As he learned best from repeated exposure and fighting, he decided to do the same to Erza. He gave her basic instructions and explained how to go about gripping the sword correctly and after that let her develop her own style. He was essentially a training dummy for her to try and hit, only he would point out any flaws in her swings or openings she left herself open to after attacking. Being able to retaliate in kind only motivated her towards improving. In his opinion this was the best way to help her improve. Masters in the art of the sword had a sword style and thus had a set pattern to swinging it, so consequently, if you were skilled enough, it meant they were predictable. Making Erza develop her own style would certainly take years upon years of effort, but the end result was well worth it in his opinion. Teaching her the basic thrusts, parries, blocks and slashes were the only things he had her memorize and practice. 497,498,499,500. With a yell he threw the small boulder he'd strapped to his back off after completing his last set of squats. Looking over to his clone and Erza to see how far along they'd gotten, he was pleased to see her slash the clone across the chest and cause it to dispel back into a puddle of water. She was slowly but surely improving, now able to actually dispel his clones about once a day. Soon she'd be able to move up from weak water clones to regular shadow clones, and after that the most durable of the lot, earth clones. Picking up a scroll and unsealing a bottle of water and a towel he headed off to see how Erza was doing. You've gotten faster, Erza-chan. Pretty soon I can start throwing jutsu at you and see how you deal with that. Hailing as if faced with an army of monsters armed with nothing but a fly swatter, Erza quickly shook her head in disagreement to that idea. No. Just draw more clones at me and let's move on from there. She'd already asked him to show her some of his jutsu before and she really didn't want to be on the receiving end of them. Especially not after their usual training days. Mornings started out with physical exercises to build up strength and speed, with afternoons devoted to technique and fine-tuning their skills if they didn't go out on jobs, that is. Chuckling at her gullibility, Naruto offered her a drink before leading them both under the shade of a tree. He took a seat and waited for Erza to do the same after a hard day of training. He offered her a drink of water to cool off after her hard work. Unsure of how to start, Naruto decided to just come out with it since he'd never been the kind to tiptoe around conversation. How come you still refuse to use magic, Erza-chan? It's been a month and I still haven't seen any magic at all. I know you can use it, I was at the Tower of Heaven with you when you unlocked your potential. Erza froze at this line of questioning, not expecting it at all. Lowering her head, she stayed silent for a moment to gather her thoughts. Naruto wasn't going to push her and waited patiently for an answer. If he pushed too hard, she would only withdraw within herself and shut him out. I'm scared, Nai-san. She whispered. Confused at the reply, Naruto waited for her to elaborate. I'm scared that when I use it again I'll lose control of myself. Just like at the tower. She explained. Bewilderment clear on his face, Naruto sat back and tried to understand what she could mean. Realization dawned on him as he remembered that almost as soon as she had first used magic, he had knocked her out. He had knocked her unconscious since he thought that she wasn't fully in control of her magic yet. She had taken control of anything that resembled a weapon and had aimed it at Jello, who was her friend at the time. After that he remembered that he had set fire to the tower and left on the boats. Erza, heedless of everything Naruto was thinking about, continued with her confession. At the tower right after I thought you had died I lost it. I was overcome with this feeling of total sadness and despair before rage took over. Seeing my magic react like that and controlling all those weapons, it was terrifying. What if I lost control again? That's why I haven't used magic since. I wouldn't be able to bear it if I lost you too, Nai-san, just like I lost Jello to my power. 1. Understanding her situation in its entirety, Naruto sat up and pulled Erza into a hug. Her fears and emotions she'd been bottling up over the last 2 months were unleashed. She slowly at first but quickly gaining in intensity, began to bawl her eyes out. Clutching his shirt tightly, she buried herself into his chest as if to confirm that he wasn't going anywhere. Naruto just let her cry and uncork all the stress she'd been piling up recently. He could certainly relate to what she was saying. He'd faced a similar problem about fearing his power when he was younger. With Erza she feared her magic, while Naruto had at the time feared using Kurama's chakra and losing control. All too clearly he remembered the incident at Tenchi Bridge where he'd gone into version 2-tailed beast cloak. The power of Kurama's chakra had completely overwhelmed his senses and had led to him attacking even his friends, injuring Sakura in the process. So that feeling of despair followed by anger was something he was intimately familiar with, as it was the prelude to losing control of Kurama's chakra. As Erza cried into his chest, he realized that she was terrified of her own power and that forced her to actively avoid using it. She'd been learning how to control small bits of it but never used it in combat. It was now more than ever that he regretted taking off with Erza so quickly. If she'd been able to see that her friends were okay despite what happened with her magic, maybe she'd try and use it again. Even if she didn't actively try, at least she would be more open to the idea instead of avoiding it altogether. Of course he couldn't bring himself to tell her of Jello. Too scared of her hating him if she found out that he killed Jello. Sighing at his situation, he planned out what he would have to say to her. After her crying had turned into sniffles, Erza pulled away from Naruto, almost ashamed that she had cried. The last thing she wanted was for him to think she was ungrateful for all he'd done, and crying certainly didn't help her in that. Before she tried to apologize, Naruto spoke up. Looking at her fondly and knowing what she wanted to do, he quickly moved to squash that line of thought. There's nothing wrong with crying, Erza-chan. You have nothing to be ashamed of. But she tried to say. No buts, Naruto interjected calmly, but with underlying tones of certainty. I know exactly what it's like having untapped power that you have no control over, that you fear, because it could possibly hurt those dear to you. Glad that Naruto wasn't disappointed in her, but not understanding what he meant, Erza only looked at him bemusedly. Naruto could only look at her scrunched up nose and tilted head and chuckle lightly. He had long ago explained that a chakra beast was sealed into him after she had asked how he replaced his eye. Now it seemed he would have to go more in depth on using his power, aside from the healing factor. 2. Making himself comfortable, he started on his long tale of his initial experiences using Kurama's chakra. Starting with his first instances of accelerated healing all the way through his mastering it with Kurabi and Hichibi. So you see Erza-chan, if you doubt your power, doubt yourself, all that will do is hurt you in the end. The falls of truth taught me that. You have to accept everything about you in order to be stronger. It is only when you accept yourself as a whole that you can truly control your power and overcome your fears. All throughout recounting his experiences, Erza could only listen in mild wonder and shock at what he went through. Before she would have been skeptical that he would understand her in any way. He was her older brother, powerful, experienced and cheerful. She never would have expected him to have gone through something similar to her. Not only was it similar, but his own accounts were arguably worse. Battling for your life after believing your friend died to save you, using the power to save yourself from falling to your death, once more calling upon it to fight your runaway friend and bring him back home, and the worst one was using it to battle a notorious criminal and nearly killing your teammate in the encounter after losing control. Erza felt that Naruto truly empathized with what she went through at the Tower of Heaven. "So what should I do then, Naruto Aniki?" she asked quietly. Looking at her after he had finished explaining his past, the blonde boy only knew a few things to help her get through this. "Look Erza-chan, I was afraid of using Kyuubi's power at first because I might hurt people, but to deny such a crucial part of me meant I would have ended up hating myself. I lost control of myself a few times to his power true, but I ended up learning that it was way better to train myself, so I never lost control again and hurt my friends by accident like I hurt Sakura." As she pulled her legs to her chest, Erza pondered on his words. Staying silent for a few minutes, she had one more question to ask. "How can I be sure that training won't make it worse or that something won't go wrong?" "I don't expect you to master it overnight, Erza-chan, so start off small and work your way up from there. Much like I had people strong enough to do something if I ever lost control, I am strong enough to step in with you if you feel overwhelmed. Now enough of this depressing stuff, let's go eat," Naruto cheerfully exclaimed before jumping to his feet. They took a few minutes to clean up their unofficial training ground and left towards their guild to get some lunch. Still unused to walking into a veritable party house every time they visited the guild, Naruto ignored everyone the best he could. After ordering his food and noticing that neither Levi nor Kana were around, he and Erza found a table to sit at alone. While waiting for his food to arrive, Naruto absent-mindedly took out a book to read. Not really paying much attention to it, he idly mused on his current financial situation. Knowing that he had enough for this month's rent but debating on whether or not he needed spare money, Naruto didn't know if he should take a job today or not. "Yo Naruto, my boy, come over here for a minute. There's someone that I want you to meet," Makarov called out, knocking him from his thoughts. He had just finished walking into the guild and spotted the blonde sitting with his sister. A soft gasp pulled his attention to Erza. "What's the matter, Amato? You look like you've seen a ghost." "That's Gildert's Clive with the master. He's known as the Ace of Fairy Tale, an S-ranked wizard said to be on par with Master Makarov," Erza exclaimed hurriedly and with slight awe. Slightly impressed and eager to meet another S-class wizard, he got up and walked over to Makarov. As he approached the duo, he sized the new arrival up. Tall and muscular with shoulder-length reddish-orange slicked-back hair, stubble around his mouth and chin, all of it blended together to make him a gruff and intimidating figure. His attire was simple and not extravagant like Naruto had seen on many other wizards, consisting of a dark high-collared cloak over a black shirt and armored plates on his shoulders, with dark loose pants tucked into simple high-top boots. His pants were held up by what appeared to be an armored belt, and when approaching him, Naruto could tell Gildert's had incredible magical reserves. Naruto pulled to a stop a few feet away from the duo. "Hey master, you wanted to see me?" Since he arrived at their side while they were in discussion with one another, Naruto had the fortune to overhear the last few words of their conversation. "Too young, he can't be strong enough for this." Makarov ignored what Gildert's had said to him and turned to speak to the young cheerful boy. "Ah Naruto, just the person we were talking about. Do you remember what we discussed about a month ago in the forest?" Raising an eyebrow in slight surprise, Naruto took a quick look around before he responded. "Yes, I remember. Is it no longer something you would like done with discretion, master?" A soft chuckle was Makarov's reaction. "No worries, my boy, we won't talk here, I just wanted you to know why I called you over. Follow me outside, there is something I wish to show you." Before he could walk out the door, Gildert's interrupted him. "Let's let them eat first, master. I'm Gildert's Clive, by the way, kid. Nice to meet another new member of the guild." Shaking the hand that Gildert's offered, Naruto introduced himself too. "Naruto Scarlet," jabbing his thumb behind him, he then said, "and the little retard sitting down over there is my Amato Erza Scarlet." By this point Makarov had realized that indeed the Scarlet siblings were about to sit down and eat their meal. Smiling sheepishly at Naruto, he offered a small apology. "Sorry about that, Naruto, I didn't notice you were about to eat. Why don't you and your sister meet us in that same clearing in East Forest where we first talked? Say in about 30 to 45 minutes, is that good for you?" "No apologies necessary, master," laughed Naruto, "I forget things when I'm in a rush for something important too." We'll meet you out there in about 45 minutes then. Great, then we'll be on our way. Makarov remarked, walking out of the guild followed by Gilderts. Shaking his head at the slightly eccentric guildmaster, Naruto walked back to his table to inform Erza of their plans for the afternoon. Makarov had said to bring Erza along, so whatever it was he wanted to show Naruto, it must not directly involve investigating Raventail. I still think you're making a mistake, master. For all the potential you see in him, he is still very young. Someone like him shouldn't be thrust into the world of Dark Guild so quickly. Gilderts argued. He'd been opposing Makarov's idea to have Naruto infiltrate Raventail ever since he was first told of it. He is young, Makarov conceded, but if even half of what he's told me and I have seen is true, he is more than skilled enough for this. Besides, that's why I will have you test him yourself to determine if he's strong enough or not. This way you can put your mind at ease. Gilderts considered that before. Alright, then I'll test him a bit, but if he doesn't measure up to my standards, master, then I have the right to make him drop this investigation. I won't send a child that can't defend himself into such a dangerous environment. We both know what would happen to him if he is ever found out. Grimly nodding as he acknowledged how dangerous this would be for Naruto if caught, Makarov easily accepted that stipulation. I understand that as well, Gilderts, so go ahead and test him to what you believe is a fair level. However, at this point he looked up to meet Gildert's eyes to convey how serious he was. Do not purposefully sabotage his chances of going ahead with this. Raventail is far too dangerous to be allowed to run free. We must keep an eye on Ivan and whatever plans he cooks up for the future. Magnolia East Forest, 1 hour and 30 minutes later. The clearing they had picked out would do well for what Makarov had planned. There was a river nearby, but apart from a boulder here and there it was mostly an open area surrounded by trees. Makarov and Gilderts had been waiting for the two young wizards for well over an hour now. Starting to feel a bit irritated as he'd always been impatient, Gilderts was about to head back to the guild and drag them out, but then he heard them walking towards their location. We're so late, Nai-san. I hope Master Makarov won't be mad at us. Erza's voice rang out, irritation clearly evident in her tone. It's not even my fault though, Erza-chan. I didn't get us lost or anything this time. Naruto offered lamely, as he felt that he wasn't to blame for being late. You didn't tell us we were supposed to be here 45 minutes ago, Nai-san. If anyone is to blame, it's definitely you. Erza protested as the Dulai-colored siblings finally stepped into the clearing. Makarov gave the two an amused look as he rather liked seeing the two of them act so carefree and normal after everything they'd gone through. Even so, he had to ask, what took you so long, Naruto? You were supposed to be here almost an hour ago. Slightly humbled at the soft rebuke from the master of fairy tale, Naruto nevertheless had a strong urge to emulate his old sensei. Should I go with the black cat excuse? No, that'll never work. Maybe getting lost on the road of life. Erza-chan would never let me get away with that. Decisions. Naruto was beginning to see why Kakashi always came up with ridiculous excuses when late. Thinking them up in the first place was so much fun. Erza got the feeling that Erniki was about to offer a lame excuse for their tardiness, judging by his look of concentration. In order to prevent that, she stomped on his foot in warning. Wincing from the pain, Naruto finally came up with what to say. Shooting a sly smile in Erza's direction, he decided that the truth was the best answer, or at least part of the truth. Erza-chan decided it was a good idea to get a second and then a third helping of strawberry cake as dessert. I urged her to hurry so we wouldn't be late, but alas, she wouldn't listen. She sputtered indignantly before coming up with a reply. But you offered to pay and told me to take my time. Naruto waved off her accusation nonchalantly. Yeah, but I always pay, and besides I had to make sure you actually chewed your food and not just inhale it like you usually do. It's quite rude, you know. Mortified that Erniki had placed the blame on her, Erza could do nothing but look at him with wide disbelieving eyes. A burst of laughter from Makarov alleviated all concerns of getting in trouble, however, and so she was able to calm herself down. Stop teasing your sister, Naruto, older brothers shouldn't do that. Makarov chided gently. Now I'm sure you're curious as to why we brought you all the way out here. In truth, Naruto had already guessed that they wanted some sort of demonstration of what he could do. Based on what he overheard them talk about as well as Makarov's hint and their present location, he was prepared to exhibit a few of his jutsus. Is it because you want me to show off some techniques? Naruto ventured, hoping to get this over with. Not exactly, Gilderts interjected. We came all the way out here so that you and I could spar. I want to make sure you're strong enough to handle what we're asking you to do. Excitement flowed through him as Naruto had long ago wondered how he stacked up to an established powerhouse. At first he'd been thinking of asking Makarov to spar who he learned was a member of the 10 Wizard Saints, but Gilderts was offering, and he was supposed to be on par with the Sandaime Guild Master. Awesome. How do you want to start then? What are the rules? Who's the referee? Naruto let out in a rush, eager to begin. Makarov placed a hand on the excitable blonde to calm him down. You will start at my mark. The rules are nothing lethal for either of you and no weapons. I will be the judge. Now prepare yourself, Naruto, this won't be easy. Walking away from Gilderts until he stood about 20 meters away, Naruto waited for the starting signal. Take this seriously, shrimp. It'll take more than spamming mass amounts of clones to beat this guy. Kurama warned his young again container. I am taking this seriously, fuzz face. Even without your chakra I have plenty of skills and moves to show how strong I am, and quit making fun of my hide, asshole. Naruto retorted hotly. Pulling Erza a safe distance away from what he felt would soon become a battlefield of destruction, Makarov then turned to the two fighters. Begin. This should be a good test of the brat's skills. He's too arrogant from training in Anbu and using my chakra. Stealth and power are one thing, but he's lost what made him so dangerous in his youth. He must relearn to trust his instincts and be unpredictable. Kurama thought to himself after giving out a warning to his container. Naruto just stared at Gilderts, watching and waiting to see who would make the first move. Seeing that the Titanic man was content with doing nothing, Naruto molded his chakra and performed a seal-less shunshin and disappeared from his position. He reappeared midway through an axe kick aimed at Gilderts' head as he tried to catch him off guard. Without even trying, Gilderts blocked the blow with his forearm. Slightly impressed, Naruto once more vanished from view only to appear in his original position. He was more than a little concerned at the fact that Gilderts hadn't seemed worried in the least by his attack. Now a bit wary at how strong his opponent appeared, Naruto decided to re-evaluate his opinion on the S-class wizard in front of him. While he knew he wasn't as physically strong as when he was older, having his kick blocked so effortlessly was worrying. Naruto had hoped to catch him off guard with his speed, but Gilderts hadn't lost track of him at all when defending. It was time to step this up a notch. It was foolish of him to hope that kick would have hurt Gilderts. A man said to be on par with the guildmaster wasn't to be taken so lightly. Pumping chakra into his legs, he made a beeline for Gilderts, almost reaching him before swerving to the right and attempting to attack from the side. His punch was once more blocked effortlessly by Gilderts. Not one to be deterred, he tried to follow up with a kick, one that was blocked as well, before ending his combo with a high knee that Gilderts just batted away. Gilderts' defense was impeccable, and what made it worse for the young blonde was that he made it look so effortless. Using only one arm to do everything, and so Naruto made a tactical retreat. Lamenting not being able to use his Hiraishin kunai, Naruto planned a different style of attack. Flashing through a few hand seals quickly, he jumped back and behind a boulder before whispering his technique. Doten. Dachu Senko, one of the few Doten techniques he knew that allowed for total immersion into the earth itself. Now fully hidden from view, Naruto carefully and as silently as possible made his way underneath Gilderts. Sensing no reaction from his opponent, he exploded from underground and made to uppercut him, hoping to finally hit him. Gilderts merely leaned back a small amount to avoid the incoming fist and cocked his arm back. He'd had enough of letting the boy jump around and try to hit him. Sooner or later he would also hit back, even if he was restricted on how hard he could by Makarov. So Gilderts punched Naruto in the chest as he avoided the uppercut. Naruto was sent crashing to the ground and skidded a few feet away before sticking out an arm and using it to leap back to his feet. The force of the blow was nothing to laugh at. Is this all you've got, kid? You might as well stop now if can't land a single blow on me. Gilderts blandly stated, unimpressed with what he'd seen. Makarov had said the kid was strong and had potential, all he'd seen so far was a moderately fast child who could somehow move underground. If he wanted to pass this little test, he'd at least have to make Gilderts move from his spot. Smirking and rubbing the sore spot on his chest, Naruto prepared to show Gilderts exactly what he had. If Gilderts had been informed by Makarov of Naruto's skills, then he would be expecting a fire mage who could also wield earth magic. So weaving a few more hand seals, Naruto prepared his next move to throw at the S-class wizard. Oten. Ari Jigoku. Gilderts only blinked once in slight surprise as all the earth around him swirled before trying to pull him down. He was in a sinkhole, it seemed. Interesting spell, kid, too bad it won't work on the likes of me. After saying that, he activated his magic and concentrated it to his fist, Karasu. Yuburu, slamming the fist into the ground. The impact on the earth cracked the land and tore it open, pillars of stone and earth rising upwards as an enormous crater formed directly underneath his fist. Jumping out of the crater, Gilderts turned to face Naruto, only to see him with a wide grin on his face. Didn't expect it to, but this might. Kaiten. Kiryu Enden. Naruto inhaled deeply before exhaling a torrent of concentrated fire, all aimed at the red-haired mage. So the kid really can use two types of magic. Not bad. Gilderts mumbled before raising his arm palm out to defend from the attack. Unkai. Disappear. Instead of an enormous explosion resulting from two attacks going head-to-head, Gilderts' magic simply overwhelmed the fire and dispersed it harmlessly. Naruto stared wide-eyed as his jutsu was seemingly snuffed out before reaching its target. This is a lot harder than I thought it'd be. But that magic he just used, it was almost like he cut my attack apart. Naruto thought to himself. A familiar cross-hand seal made its appearance before Tajuwu Kage Bunshin was called out and a trio of new Narutos appeared. Ah, this kid is interesting. I've never seen that type of magic before. Gildertz remarked. All four Narutos took their places on opposite sides of Gildertz, trying to surround him. Gildertz stared impassively as he didn't believe they could do much to hurt him at this point. Two of the clones went through different sets of hand seals before each announcing their technique. Pain. Ryuuken no Jutsu, a great dragon-shaped flame erupted from Naruto's mouth and immediately made its way to Gildertz. The man in question simply shook his head before raising his hand in order to dispel it once more. However, before he could, another attack joined the fray. Oten. Yomi Numa, the second Naruto, unleashed his attack, resulting in an instant mud swamp under Gildertz, aiming to hold him in place. Realizing that even if he dispelled the flame he would be a sitting duck for a follow-up attack from another of the Narutos, Gildertz quickly pumped magic all around his body to dispel the swamp around him. Briefly unleashing Karasu magic from his entire body, he blew away all the mud, trying to suck him in, before jumping out of the way of the incoming flame dragon and landing near the river bank. I assume all your little copies can use magic too then. It's too bad I can crush earth and snuff out your fire magic though. Gildertz said, although he was a little impressed by what he'd seen. Laughing at that presumption, Naruto answered the older man. They can each use as many techniques as I can. And I might just surprise you with what I can still do. He answered cryptically. Gildertz raised an eyebrow at that as he calmly looked around him to see where each Naruto stood. One of them had disappeared after launching the fire attack and two stood in front of him. Looking around for the last, he finally noticed he was behind him and seemingly standing on the water. The Naruto on the water grinned at Gildertz before calling out his own attack. Suiton. Suryudan no Jutsu, another dragon took shape from in front of Naruto, but this time it rose from the water and uncurled itself like a cobra before striking at Gildertz in a shocking display of speed. Before he could either evade or block the incoming water dragon, Naruto attacked Gildertz, preventing his getaway. Launching a devastating flurry of punches, kicks, knees, elbows and the occasional headbutt, it was difficult for anyone to keep up. Well, difficult for anyone not at S-class wizard level. Gildertz wove his way in and out of the incoming blows, and when he couldn't, he'd simply block them with one arm again. Brayton. Jibashi, the first Naruto that he'd lost track of after the fire dragon joined the one attacking Gildertz before the wizard could retaliate with his second arm. As electricity crackled up and down his arm, Naruto made sure to avoid his doppelganger as he launched a wave of electricity at the cloaked wizard. Easily batting the lightning away with a muttered punkai. Hoden. Gildertz was confused to what they hoped to accomplish with physical attacks. Why the hell aren't they jumping out of the way of that dragon? Gildertz wondered. His question was answered when the dragon tore through both Narutos, resulting in a cloud of smoke commemorating their existence. Undeterred, the dragon barreled straight towards Gildertz, who now had no time to avoid it or defend himself. The water dragon caught him in its maws, carrying him clear through the clearing. Crashing him through several boulders and trees in the surrounding forest, the attack didn't die down until he'd plowed a sizable trench through the earth. The force of the water tore up the ground Gildertz had been on and destroyed anything that got in its way as it tried to tear him apart. Brush and debris littered the area where the dragon finally ran out of power. That was one of Naruto's more powerful water attacks that weren't lethal, and he expected to have to wait a minute for Gildertz to catch his breath and regain his bearings. So it was with wide eyes that Naruto looked on as Gildertz walked back into the clearing and kicked away a broken tree trunk that he crashed through. The only thing denoting he'd been attacked was his wet cloak. Aha, you are definitely full of surprises, kid. No wonder Makarov thinks so highly of you. Gildertz exclaimed as he let out another deep laugh. This guy. It's no wonder he's considered the strongest mage of Fairy Tail. Even if I didn't expect to knock him out with those attacks, to just shrug them off like they're nothing is incredible. Naruto thought in disbelief at what he'd just seen. Until you can measure up to him in battle, I don't think you should slack off on your training, Naruto. Kurama let out seriously. Even he could recognize what a powerful and worthy opponent Gildertz Clive had turned out to be. Yeah, no kidding. He's as strong as A if he's able to just shrug off attacks like that. Maybe not as fast, but the brute strength is definitely up there. Naruto replied. At least he's not the same old moron that would spam clones and start an idiotic charge towards his opponents with his Rasengan in full view. He has a long way to go before he can claim S-class shinobi status though, especially if he keeps his word and frees me, Kurama opined to himself. So then, is that all you've got? Gildertz asked in what he deemed a teasing tone of voice. Naruto scowled immediately at hearing him, as it seemed he was being mocked. No, definitely not, there's one more thing I want to do. Of the 3 clones Naruto had created, only one remained, and he immediately went over to his creator's side. The clone made a tiger seal and held it, waiting for Naruto's signal to begin their plan. But the nod from its creator, the clone, revealed its technique. Doten. Doryu Jaheki before stomping its foot on the ground, causing an earthen rampart to erupt beneath Gildert's feet and lifting him several stories high. Gilderts could only look on confusedly as one of the Narutos went up in smoke and disappeared before the other one also called out a technique. It didn't make much sense for Naruto to give up the high ground though. Gyuuten. Juhuri showed down below from Naruto's arm, which he thrust in his opponent's direction. A massive demonic hand made of wind formed before launching itself at the red-haired mage. Gilderts thought that he wouldn't be able to be caught by surprise anymore today. After all, it's not often you see a kid proficient in one elemental type magic, much less two. Here in front of him though, was a kid not much older than Kana who could use not 3, not 4, but 5 different types of magic. 5. This kid was incredible. He wasn't about to let that thing hit him though, once with that dragon was enough. So after he channeled magic to his fist he slammed it down, Karasu. Yuburu, and destroyed the platform he was on. Jumping off the rapidly deteriorating earthen structure and on his way downward he was caught off guard as Naruto appeared before him using that speed technique from earlier. Only a slight elevation of one eyebrow showed Gildert's surprise at this. I see, so the platform was just a distraction, so he could try a frontal attack when I'm in midair. Once more Naruto attempted to engage him in hand-to-hand combat. Right punch, spin kick, left punch, left elbow strike, roundhouse kick, an uppercut and a headbutt, all made an attempt to worm their way past the falling wizard's guard. Regrettably for Naruto, he was once more shown how outclassed he was by Gilderts, as said man blocked all attempts to hit him before smashing a fist into the blonde stomach and rocketing him away from his foe. Amazingly enough, all this had taken place in the amount of time it took for Gilderts to descend to the ground. As his feet touched the earth he noticed how the demonic wind claw followed after him. After landing he punched at the claw using Punkai. Dizaperu and cracked it to pieces, his magic even going so far as to cut the trees behind the claw into pieces from his blow. Taking a look around he saw Naruto getting back to his feet. I've seen enough, Naruto. You've done more than enough to impress me. Gilderts paused when he saw the damage they had caused to the area around them. I couldn't even land a hit you though. Naruto grumbled, more than a little peeved at seeing how far he had to go before he could challenge S-class wizards. Acquiescing to the older man's request to stop the fight, he was nevertheless determined to get stronger, even as he outwardly scowled at how far he had to go. Shaking his head at the sullen attitude of the young wizard, Gilderts turned to look over at where Makarov and Erza were sitting. Of said spectators, only Makarov was in complete shock after what he'd witnessed. Erza, well, certainly impressed, had already known that Naruto could use powerful elemental jutsu. He'd said so himself and had demonstrated for Erza after she'd asked him once. Even so, the damage that had been caused was unbelievable. Their unofficial training ground had been torn apart. Trees were missing, craters were everywhere, and boulders were more prevalent. It would be a pain to get this place back to its original shape. Luckily Naruto could use earth manipulation to fix the majority of the landscape. All throughout the spar, what had amused Erza the most was watching Master Makarov's jaw drop lower and lower until she could swear you would be able to fit a barrel in there. After the two had stopped fighting, it was Erza who reminded Makarov he was the judge and had to end the match. She immediately made her way over to Naruto and checked him over for any injuries. Seeing none, she gave him a tight hug and congratulated him on a job well done. That was really impressive, Naruto and Nikki. One day I'll be just as strong as you are. Erza chirped happily even as she stood perfectly still in front of Naruto. The blonde shinobi only smiled and easily accepted the praise he was given. While she was slightly more open around others, he could still see that she forcibly restrained herself from acting more upbeat because Makarov and Gilderts were around. Of course you will, Erza-chan. In fact, maybe we should up our training so you get even stronger than I am, not just match me. He teased, smirking at her slight paling complexion. Now that the spar was over, Naruto finally looked himself over. Apart from the 2 painful punches he received from Gilderts, he was fine. Sure, he was throwing around jutsu like it was candy, but he had more than enough chakra to keep going if need be. In fact, neither of the 2 fighters had any injuries to speak of, only slight bruising on Naruto's behalf. Only the battlefield that Naruto called his practice grounds was testament to their might. Don't you think you should have held back a bit, Pipsqueak? Letting everyone know that you can utilize 5 different elements will make you easy to identify. Not something that a spy should aspire to. Kurama mentioned carelessly. If Naruto wanted to make things harder for himself, who was he to judge? Eye-twitching, Naruto pushed past his irritation and answered the 9-tailed fox, "Shut up, Baka Fox. I won't always use all 5 elements when I fight. They just wanted to test me so I had to. I'll just ask them to keep that part quiet. Call me Pipsqueak one more time, Fuzzface, see what happens." Ooh, scary. Makarov made his way to Gilderts. "So what do you think? It's definitely got potential. I've never even heard of a person trying to learn more than 2 offensive type magics. He's strong enough for what you want, as for being sneaky enough I'll just have to take your word for it. Gildert said, his voice exposing how impressed he'd been by the kid. Yes, well, do you remember how I said that he arrived at the same time as Erza, but then left to visit the Grand Crocus Library among other things? Makarov asked his fellow S-class wizard. Rubbing his chin with his hand in thought, Gildert's tried to remember past conversations with the guildmaster. Now that you mention it, yeah. What about it? I asked my old friend Yujima to call me when Naruto reached the library in Crocus. I arranged for a pass to be available for him to research. Imagine my surprise when I was told he never picked it up. Makarov laughed. Frowning in confusion, Gilderts didn't understand what that proved. What's so funny, master? All that means is he didn't visit the capital. That's where you're wrong. He brought me some paperwork that you can only get done in Crocus, as well as copies of books I asked him to pick up for me only found in the library. Makarov laughed. That's a riot. To be able to break into the Magic Council's treasured library is no easy feat. Gilderts grinned back. Ambling over to the older men, Naruto and Erza wanted to find out what they decided. So what's the verdict, master? If one were to have met Naruto when he was young, you'd never believe him to grow into the type that is crafty, cunning and a good spy. As a child he would often pull pranks for attention and had a loud and boisterous personality. The way he dressed also called immediate attention to him. As a child he preferred wearing bright kill me now colors. It wasn't until he actively started to avoid the public that he appreciated the subtlety and effort that went into infiltration and reconnaissance missions. Lo and behold, he took to it like a fish to water. In fact, the deeper he would have to infiltrate and therefore lie, the more he enjoyed those types of missions handed out to him. Finally, here was a field that he was pretty much raised for. His shadow clones allowing him to gather information quickly and with low risk. His experience with pranks and getaways giving him an idea of what to follow when planning traps or escaping from a botched mission. All of it coming together and proving that he was more than just a walking chakra power plant that smashed his way through everything. So it was with great apprehension that he awaited Makarov's judgment. Infiltrating Raven Tail would be the first job he could take that even vaguely resembled his previous shinobi lifestyle. He didn't exactly miss his Anbu days per se, especially since he had far more freedom here than he did before. No, it was the fact that this finally allowed him to have a little bit of creativity with how he accomplished things. It wouldn't be something settled with fists and flashy jutsu, it was his skill and quick thinking that would keep his ass out of the fire. Surprising it may be, but he really enjoyed outthinking his opponents rather than smash them to a bloody pulp. A fond smile settled on his face as Naruto wondered if this was how Shikamaru felt all the time. Both of the older mages pulled their attention to the young duo. Makarov was almost vibrating with excitement over what he'd seen. Barely able to restrain himself from jumping up and down in glee after watching Naruto. He'd never admit it to Gilderts, but he too was worried that Naruto might not be good enough to spy on Raven Tail. After clearing his throat a bit, Makarov alleviated Naruto's fears. You have impressed us both, Naruto. You're all clear to go ahead if you still want to. Maybe later on we can get together to hash out the details, alright? Understanding that though Erza was allowed to come and watch, Makarov still wanted this kept secret. So in learning that, Naruto nodded to show his understanding of the situation. No problem, master. Did you want to do that today or is there anything else you wanted from me? Naruto asked. A shake of the head later and Makarov responded. No, my boy, you are free to do whatever you need. Are you going out for a job later? I can always call you in later this week. Naruto sighed as he walked away to start on the repairs to the training field. No jobs for today. I think I'll do some light training with Erza-chan and then call it a day. Maybe tomorrow though. Erza, with resigned displeasure evident in her demeanor, took to helping Naruto clear some debris and setting things in order as well. Okay then, see you later kid, I'm off to do a job myself. Gilderts called over his shoulder, halfway out the clearing already. But nary but a light chuckle, Makarov too left the cleanup to the younger generation. After a few hours of collecting the brush into piles and terraforming the landscape to satisfaction, Naruto called a stop to their work. Now then, you asked me a while ago about learning shinobi skills, Erza-chan. Are you still interested? Erza wiped sweat off her brow with the back of her hand before answering. Wellies, I am. But how are we going to start? I haven't mastered magic just yet, Nai-san. While Erza was talking, Naruto took a scroll out of one of his pockets and unsealed a book. Glancing at it to make sure it was the correct one, he handed it over to Erza. 4. Erza looked at it curiously before turning a puzzled face to Naruto. Naruto waved her curiosity away and focused on what she'd said instead. Don't worry about that. I won't give you anything but the basic chakra meditation for a while yet. I wasn't kidding when I said you'd have to start at academy level training. On top of that, I want to make sure it doesn't hamper your already developing magical talents, so it's fine if we take it slow. Erza only grew more confused. That's fine. What did you give me this book for though? In her hand she held a beginner's guide. Fuinjutsu by Kaido Uzumaki. The shinobi field is diverse and can be approached from any direction to be good in it. There are Taijutsu masters, Jinjutsu, Ninjutsu and Iryonin, as well as any number of their subdivisions like Bijutsu, Ninpo, and many others. Naruto wound down as he felt he was veering off topic. However, just about all of these fields require adequate chakra stores as well as control. Fuinjutsu on the other hand is much more flexible and it emphasizes the mind more than the body. Considering you will be plenty tired from our regular training as well as new training in magic, I think this field suits you best until you build up your reserves, don't you? Naruto rattled off, hoping to convince her to develop an interest in a vastly underestimated field. Truthfully, even if she built up adequate chakra reserves, he theorized that she would never be able to perform high-rank ninjutsu or jinjutsu. Just like his Shiki Fujin messed with Kurama's chakra control, he guessed that her magic would mess with her chakra control too. He would of course teach her as much as he could, but this gave him an out for her to concentrate on for when she hit a wall in learning the other shinobi arts. Taking a closer look at the book in her hands and flipping through the pages, Erza could admit she was curious about this now. She'd been told the Hiraishin involved heavy use of advanced fuinjutsu and often watched Naruto seal away clothes, groceries and a number of other things into scrolls. I guess you're right, Nai-san. It wouldn't do to overwork myself trying to master both magic and chakra control at the same time. Erza admitted with a small frown. But the smile that would put Mido Guy to shame, Naruto skipped over to Erza and engulfed her in a hug. That's my wonderful Amado. Always doing the right thing. Now if we hurry we can still get to the store and buy you calligraphy set to get you started on this. And with that, an excited 13-year-old looking blonde boy dragged a protesting little red-headed girl along with him as he dashed into town. It wouldn't be until a few months later that Erza would wonder why, if Naruto also practiced calligraphy, he had atrocious handwriting that looked more like a toddler's doodles than actual legible material. Raven Tail 6 months later, June X 777. It had taken both Naruto and Makarov a considerable amount of time and effort to locate the elusive Dark Guild. Both employing their own methods in doing so. Makarov calling in favors with various informants in different towns and Naruto embarking on his own path to track the guild's location down. Naruto had taken a leaf out of his deceased godfather's book and started building an information network. It was still new but showed promise. Unlike Jiraiya and his love of brothels and visiting public baths, Naruto based his in food stores, magic shops, train stations and bars. Places where it was certain people would go and be a little loose with their lips because of overconfidence. Who would spy on people at food stores and train stations after all? After discovering the location of the guild, Makarov and Naruto had debated and planned on how to proceed. Naruto, having more experience, had eventually swayed Makarov to lean towards his ideas. He knew that it was unlikely he'd be able to infiltrate the guild on the first try. His spy network had told him that Raven Tail was recruiting right now and accepted almost anybody. This was both good news and bad news. Good news in that he'd be able to almost walk right up to the front door and knock. In doing so he'd be able to scope out the terrain and get the basic idea for the guild security and other pertinent information. Bad news because if a guild was recruiting so heavily it meant that they were either desperate, which according to Makarov's knowledge of Ivan was unlikely, or they were using the new recruits as cannon fodder for whatever jobs they took right now. Only the top brass and original mages would be given privileged information unless Naruto was willing to display how powerful he was. That would be a disadvantage for him though, since Ivan could possibly uncover his motives. Naruto would be under heavy suspicion for being powerful and joining a new dark guild when he could possibly have joined other more established dark guilds. He didn't need the extra attention. Makarov had wanted Naruto to try once and be done with it, occasionally trying to break in and test Raven Tail's security. Naruto had wanted to go in and infiltrate as deeply as possible before stealing as much information as he could and making a mad dash out of there when discovered. In the end they'd compromised. They would have a few test runs in joining to get a feel for the guild. This was to see how deep it would be safe to go before suspicion fell on them. Eventually they would need a semi-permanent position in the guild to obtain important knowledge on how it was run and why. Either that or they'd work to make a detailed map of the guild and all points of access so Naruto could break in and out without worry while spying on the master and his plans. As he approached the ominous and shoddy-looking headquarters of the mysterious Dark Guild, he took a minute to give his disguise a once-over. Heavy scuffed-up dirty-looking boots. Check. Torn black pants coupled with a frayed off-white shirt. Double check. A large brown coat with a fur collar and a hat. Yeah, that just about covered everything. Of course clothes alone wouldn't allow a 13-year-old child entry into Raven Tail. To help in his mission he'd spent a few months learning about disguise seals to place on his face, arms, torso and legs. Really all they amounted to was a solid hinge. Similar to overlapping a hollow shadow clone on top of his body. The only drawback was its large chakra consumption, making it unpopular for most shinobi. On the bright side, it was very hard to dispel because of that. Thanks to his impressive reserves, he could sustain it for a few days if need be. This allowed for him to take the appearance of a man in his mid-20s with a darker skin color, slightly pudgy face with stubble, black eyes and black spiky hair. All in all, a mostly forgettable person if seen walking down the street. As he stumbled through the guild's main doors stirring up a lot of noise, many of the members turned to look over at him. Taking a swig of the gourd at his side that aided in his disguise, he slurred out, "Is this that new guild I've been hearing about? It's a Raven Watsid. No. Rye Raisins Bale. Wait, Raisin Fail. Yeah, that's it, Raisin Fail." An angry tick mark appeared on many of the members' foreheads. More than a few sneered at the newcomer, and several of the females threw disgusted glares his way. Naruto barely restrained his grin. "It's Raven Tail, asshole." One of the more vocal members shouted out. Letting out a deep belch followed by another swig of alcohol, Naruto turned his attention to the speaker. "That's right, Raven's ass. Sorry about that. Hit my head on something hard last night. Head's all fuzzy. Right. I'm sure it's the head injury." Was the general sarcastic thought going through all the members' heads at that moment. The smell and potency of the alcohol could be discerned throughout the entire mess hall. His mocking the guild's name did him no favors whatsoever either. "Anyways, so I hear you're recruiting. Where do I sign up?" Naruto asked with a dopey smile on his face. When all the members rose as one and approached him, some cracking their knuckles, Naruto only had one thought cross his mind. "Oh yeah, this is fun. I love infiltration missions. Maybe I overdid it a little though." What if Naruto is Erza's older brother in Fairy Tail? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.